We'll say that Vince regains consciousness. Okay, Crystal. So during the cleanup and the march back, you spend most of the time talking with your father, who's super excited that you're back. You know, he's very pleased to see you, of course, and the fact that you came back as a hero is even more exciting and a cause for celebration. He keeps talking about the fact that they're going to have a massive celebration because of your return, throw a huge party, there's going to be a big party anyway because of the victory against the undead army, but also to celebrate the return of his oldest daughter. Did we say you had siblings? I don't remember.
I don't think so.
Oh, you had brothers. That's right. In your backstory thing.
Younger brothers, right?
So are your brothers older or younger than you?
I think I said that they were younger.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, you are the oldest. So yeah, he's super excited about that. And also to seek out the High Priestess of Athena. Okay, the High Priestess of Athena will be back on that island to the south where you came from. So to go back and find her, you're going to have to leave this continent again.
That sounds like a hassle.
Yeah, the only... I'm going to say with all of your time spent there... All right, you never heard of those gods. The gods of... I don't know where my notes are. Of that island. Of that lost elven society. Until you traveled abroad to find these Amazonians. But your time spent there, the only kind of hint that you heard of them being in Cerelia, which is the name of this continent that you're on, would be, a very small temple set up in the capital, in Anwar City. Just to try and represent the elves of this place.
Okay. Well, I don't think I want to go back to the island yet, so I'm not sure what to do now. How far did we say it was? Because I remember it being like years of travel distance away.
Well, it's not years of travel distance, right? You can, with the proper means, you can even in relatively this time frame, you can circumnavigate the globe in 80 days, right? If everything lines up for you. I guess around the world in 80 days, you had trains, so it'd be a little less than that. So it would be, you'd probably circumnavigate the globe in, but it's nowhere near that far to get to this island off the coast. It's, maybe a month at most, in the worst of conditions.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just stick with what everybody else is doing. What's everybody else doing?
I think she's asking you guys.
Yeah, I totally am.
I'm in the process of trying to learn about the different gods. I'm studying.
Oh, that would actually... I'm going to forward that one to Crystal, too.
Are we still in Stylewood right now?
Yes. So after the battle finished up, you guys killed the blood demon and the undead hordes were destroyed, and the Gorgon's army slunk back off to the north. You spent kind of 2 days in Fort Richard cleaning up, and then 3 days marching back to Llyandre.
So what was our reasoning for going back to the elf place?
For the party, I assume.
Okay. There was no, human party or anything?
No. And I sent that one in an email to Crystal, that only the highest ranking elite of the humans, dwarves, and halflings were invited back to Llyandre. So I think that was 10 halflings, 2 humans, and only 1 dwarf. So it's the highest ranking officer, a colonel or something like that, or a general. I'm not sure which one's higher. Which is higher, a colonel or a general? Anyone know?
Don't know.
No idea.
Probably a general, I imagine.
Okay, perfect. So only the general of the dwarven army was general. Yeah, okay. So yeah, only the general of the dwarven army was invited back to the Silewood for the celebration. And you could see that a lot of the elves, even those who were fighting alongside the dwarves on the battlefield, still not super keen on inviting the dwarf back. Apart from you guys, of course, right? So you are a dwarf, and I think mostly humans, because we don't have a tiefling anymore. Oh, and the Minotaur, right? So they're also not super stoked on that. But with the celebrity of the Rod Stewards, you guys are much more welcome even than this high-ranking dwarven general, who I'm going to say it's quite likely, Murgatroyd, that you recognize him.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll call him. I don't know. We'll come up with a good dwarven name for this guy.
Can I spend my time trying to find anyone that may have heard of that language that I heard when I was younger?
Yes, Hammerhide. Safak Hammerhide. That's the name of this dwarven general. So we're gonna say his family is well known in Five Peaks, right? He is as well known as the Skittles. The Hammerhides have lots of mines and they hold a lot of sway. So there's probably a high-ranking member on the Dwarven Council of the Hammerhides. That language. You ask around, like your father and the other elven nobility, and the most you get is like some old elven engineer tactician who's on the thing says, well, that sounds like old elvish. He says, a language that hasn't been spoken in many, many years, long before the gods fell on Cerelia. This is one of the first languages.
How do you know this?
How does he know this? He says, I'm a scholar. I study lots of things, and interestingly enough, right? He flips open one of his books that he's got and flips to a page where there is a rubbing of some famous plaque or something like that. And he's like, see this, particular adornment upon the shield of something or other, which you recognize. Right? It's like a famous piece of elven art. And he's like, the detailed scroll work here being held up by this elven winged deity thing, and it has a language which you can't read, but if you sound it out phonetically to yourself in your head, you're like, oh, it definitely looks like, this looks like how you imagine this would sound. No, yeah, yeah. Much like if you saw something written in Latin, right? You couldn't read it, but you might recognize it as being Latin.
And where did this artwork come from?
He says, this particular piece, the original, is in a museum in Llyandre. He says, it's a fascinating piece. If you care to accompany me, I'd love to show you. He says, the lost languages interest you, eh? He says, well, here's what I know. He goes on a long history lesson about how when elves were first created a long time ago by nature deciding that it was time to create some kind of intelligent life form to appreciate nature better, created elves, and elves all spoke this one language. It was the first language ever created in all of the world. And eventually, when the elves split and traveled to different continents and things like that, they started to come up with their own new forms of the language, or the language would degenerate into a more colloquial version of itself and become the individual elven languages around. Hence the Salwood, the Southern Dwarfs Southern Elves language, and other elves on different continents will speak their own version of the tongue. And then even the elves who went back to the or went to the Fae after the Eladrin came here, they now speak a completely different tongue, right? So, yes, yeah. So that's where the old elven tongue came from and went to. So kind of like Latin here on Earth. It's a dead language that no one really speaks anymore, but you can still see traces of occasionally. Only because elves are so much more long-lived, the old elven language, the original tongue, is even older than most things. It predates humans. It predates almost all forms of life on this planet, except for maybe dwarfs and other creatures who came from the earth as well. But elves would have everyone believe that it was the first language.
So even though it's a dead language, there's probably still some people that can speak it. Have you ever heard of anybody that could speak or read or translate it?
He says, no, I haven't dug too deep. I was interested, but never that interested in languages. I was much more interested in the fabrication and the technical application of history and things I could learn. But if you speak to some people at the museum, they might be able to help you, being far more learned gentlemen in various fields than I.
Oh, well, if you have some time, I would love to go and take a look at the original document at the museum and maybe see what people know.
He says, "Oh, my dear, it would be my pleasure."
Fantastic. Let's do it.
Okay, I'm looking back for my notes to try and see if I can find the name of that elven city we created, but I guess that'll have to happen a different time. It's in one of these old communications between us, Crystal.
My city?
No, the city where you trained with the Amazonians.
It's, the city Wonder Woman is from Them something.
I don't know. But yeah, Thermocalypse or something like that. Themyscira. Yeah, okay. Yes, that was the name of the island. But there was another name of their culture. What was, their great empire before it collapsed. But that's all right. We'll find it later. All right. So, we're going to rewind a bit before we fast forward. So we will you guys arrive in Llyandre, and you guys just happen to work out on the calendar that you guys arrive in Llyandre the same day that the elven armies arrive back from the south. They are returning home also joyous and triumphant that the orcs, once the civil war started to brew in their ranks and tear them apart, were far more easily defeated. At least a third of their numbers splintered off and fled southward, leaving a much reduced army that the elves were able to defeat with greater ease. And in fact, they have the orc leader, Nutsack, a prisoner. And they've brought him back to Llyandre. In Llyandre, the capital, where the various factions of the army have kind of splintered as some people are hurrying through the capital to head back to their homes. You've also met the Southern Elven Army contingent, which is coming back from their glorious defeat of the orcs in the south. And they are quite, exalted as well. And there's revelry in the streets even before nightfall as the triumphant soldiers from both the north and the south kind of converged on the city at once. Arwen's family, of course, invites you to stay at their stately estate. Arwen and... No, I was going to say Vince, but just Arwen is invited to stay in the main house. The rest of you are cordially invited to stay in the guest house, guest/servant quarters. You could sense, Arwen, that there was probably willingness to extend an invitation to Vince until Vince snorts a bunch of cocaine in front of them, and then they realize that maybe, even though she is a high elf, Vince might not be the kind of person that they want staying in the family house.
Squares.
You couldn't not snort cocaine in front of my parents?
I tried.
I'm sure the servant quarters are also very nice.
Yes. Interestingly, Jack, you as you're thinking, Jack is not in the stables. As you're being directed to the servants' quarters, I guess it would be some lower class elves are their servants, as well as some gnomish slaves. They assume that you are going to be more comfortable in the stables, and if you say otherwise and be like, you want a bed, they're a little bit surprised. Of course, because they are servants, they're willing to prepare for you a room, but it definitely takes them all a shock that the large cowman doesn't want to sleep in the straw with the other cows and horses.
Jack still needs good night's sleep.
Of course, sir. The little gnomish slaves, bow and scrape. 1,000 apologies.
Normally, Jack would not mind, but Jack is tired.
Of course, sir. Anything else you require, do please let us know. Don't hesitate. You get a definite, please don't tell our master that we, disrespected you vibe coming from the gnomish slaves.
I'll see if I can convince one of them to step aside so that I can grill them for more information about the local traditions and so on.
Oh,
And maybe I can convince him to give up his version of a Bible.
you don't have to. You don't have to grill or step on them side or anything, right? You just say, and they do. That's how these gnomes work. Yes, he's more than happy to tell you, answer any of your questions about what's going on. And when you ask him, he says that of course we all worship. He says, of course we all worship Llyandre. As all good God-fearing Llyandrians do here in the capital of Llyandre, the most glorious of all elven cities.
I don't think I have that name in my list.
It is the good-aligned god of Earth, goddess of Earth. She is, in fact, the namesake of Llyandre, the capital city, was built to honor her, and that's the largest temple of her. The largest temple in Llyandre is for Llyandre, he gestures to a little shrine in the corner, which now that he points it out, you haven't been in very many elven homes, but you see this image in a lot of them. The woman with the hair that flows like tree vines and flowers and everything. Almost classic, typical earth goddess kind of image. Flowers in her hair. Absolutely, sir. The gnomes... interestingly, the gnome heads off to instruct one of the elven servants because, as you find out from a little bit of information gathering, the gnomes are not allowed to touch any of the alcohol as well as several other things in the house. There are very rigidly defined guides about what a gnomish slave can and cannot do in the house, what they're allowed to handle and what they're not. Anything that is of certain value or things like that, even clearing the table, the gnomish slaves are not allowed to touch any of like the silverware or the fine china. The elves have to do that. The gnomes, however, can like do the the table scraps and take care of other things like that, the washing and stuff. But anything that is of value is not even trusted to the gnomish slaves.
Man, not only do they have slaves, they have two classes of slaves. So, Jack is going to probably head over to the temple to confer with the priest and get caught up, so to speak, since I presume it would be the same priest there that he had spoken to before.
It's true. I should qualify. I might have misspoken. The gnomes are the only ones that are slaves. They have elven servants, but some of them are indentured servants. Dwarves seem to be pretty laid back. They're the only, dwarves don't like elves, and gnomes kind of go where elves are. So, in general, maybe dwarves don't like gnomes because if there's a gnome around, it probably means that there's an elf nearby.
They're not just like an underground race, also, or
No, gnomes are not native to this world, right? Gnomes only come from the Fae, and you have never seen a quote-unquote free gnome, except for maybe that trip you guys took to the Fae. Gnomes don't tend to go to this world because gnomes that end up in this realm get quickly captured and put into slavery.
How do they feel about Eladrin?
Gnomes are very polite and courteous and quick to respond to any orders or requests that you give them.
Do they recognize my trident?
Yes. If you're...
I'll let one sneak a peek.
Yes. If you sneak a peek to one of them, they are definitely afraid of you, and word passes quickly. So much so that while you're here, if you are walking down a corridor and the gnomes see you coming, they will immediately try and duck into any room that's handy, and if they cannot, they turn their backs to you and put their faces against the wall until you're past.
Just stand against the wall.
Yep. And this is your family, Arwen. Excellent. Yes. You were through the capital before, Jack?
Yes, we were taken there as prisoners before. but I presume I can see the temple from where I am, or at least I can get directions to it.
You were taken to Llyandre as a prisoner.
Is that not where we are?
Yeah, that's where you are. But I don't remember you guys being taken here as prisoners. You were taken to a city in the south, right, where they put you in the stockade?
I can't remember now.
Yeah, where you were, brought before kind of a ruler guy and thrown down, and he said he's going to trade you to the orcs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that wasn't here.
Okay. But anyways.
You can though head to the temple. By and large, people kind of scatter in the street as you walk by, except for soldiers, especially soldiers from the Northern Army, who now you can recognize the difference between their tabards. They kind of give you the old soldier's chin-raised bro nod, as you walk past. Even, maybe one or two of them come up to you and say thank you for, and all the Rod Stewards for your services in the North. We greatly appreciate it. I can just say even one of them brings forth a terrified child to say, this is my son. Son, this is Jack of the Rod Stewards. And the little boy, says thank you in a very quiet and reserved voice as he half hides behind his father's leg. Yes, you sit down so that the boy can get a good look at you, and he, as soon as you kind of stop towering over him, he does peek out a little further from behind his father's leg and very shyly reach out to touch your fur, and then, of course, touch it and pull his hand back right away and then smile a little bit.
This worked in the last town, too.
It's it's all about the children. So the father then, instructs him to shake your hand, shake his hand like a man. And then, the elf boy steps forward a little bit more bravely and extends his hand to shake yours.
Okay, I shake it.
Excellent. He shakes it a little timidly at first, but then he smiles and grips your hand a little more firmly. Grips two of your fingers more firmly, as his hand is quite small and yours is very large. Then he kind of laughs and looks up at his father, who smiles back to him, and scoops him up into his arms and heads off as they laugh and joke to each other. And you can hear the boy saying something in Elvish as he looks back over at you and smiles and looks back to his father.
Okay, and I will resume heading over to the temple.
All right. Yes, you make it to the temple, where there is revelry already afoot. The returning clerics, elven clerics, are heading in, and they're disrobing and cleaning up in the courtyard, where there's a large fountain where they can wash up in. And the last remaining kind of elven paladin you kind of see here up close for the first time as he sets his gigantic two-handed sword up against the wall. Which, did you get a good look at that infernal sword when it was being passed around from the boys?
No.
Okay. Well, it just looks like a giant claymore, a two-handed 6-foot bladed sword with runes etched into the blade, and a very familiar kind of the holy symbol of the female goddess of earth in the pommel of the handle. And with his back to you, this paladin kind of strips off his plate armor, which he drops to the ground with a clatter, and you can see large muscles. Even for an elf, this guy is really stacked, which makes it that more shocking to see an elf that's built like this, and also covered in scars and stuff all down his back. This is a real kind of warrior paladin. And he turns around and looks at you, and for a moment, right, there's that look of, Jesus, a monster, but then he says, oh, no, he says, yes, Jack of the Rod Stewards, you bless us with your presence here. It is truly an honor. And he kind of does a little bit of a bow towards you, and he says, come, make yourself comfortable. They are bringing us out some food.
Jack is not a blessing. Jack continues to seek knowledge so that he may be worthy of handing out blessings.
He kind of smiles and he says, that's a very clerical thing for you to say. He says, you'll fit in here well. He is also speaking Anurian, but it's heavily accented.
Jack still appreciates that. Because Jack isn't much good for other languages.
No, and there is lots of the now familiar Salwood elf language being tossed around the courtyard. Even someone addresses him and he turns back to them and he says, "Yeah, right." And he turns back to you and he says, This is my good friend Dayunaka, and he was fighting alongside us at the battle, right?" Another elven kind of warrior-looking guy steps forward with his armor held in one hand, and he puts out his hand to shake yours, and he says to you in the elvish tongue, "Liha leko lekatinga." To which the larger elf paladin guy says, "It's an honor." He says he watched you battle with the blood demon. It was a fantastic show.
Yeah, Jack will shake his hand, and yeah.
Excellent. We're just gonna skip around here. So Arwen, Crystal, what are you doing?
I'm going to the museum with that language guy.
Ah, perfect. Right away. Okay. So you get back into town. You go home for a little bit, get tidied up, change out of your war clothes, quite possibly have a warm bath with the very luxurious marble bathtub, which is filled with piping hot water by slave gnomes, and get yourself all cleaned up. Then meet this guy. And you can see he's all cleaned up too and tidied, and you can smell on him like the elvish equivalent of cologne, which is more traditionally they rub themselves with flowers and natural style. But he bows to you and he says, "My dear Arwen, it is a great pleasure that you would join me here in this house of learning." And he cocks an elbow as though he's going to take your arm.
Excellent.
So you fill the tub yourself and tell the slaves to go away?
Accurate.
All right. Yeah, they're a little bit shocked, but of course they obey, and it just takes you a little bit longer to fill the tub yourself.
What is the guy's name that I'm actually talking to?
I don't have a name for him yet, but let's give him a name right now. His name is... Why are elf names so hard to say?
That's okay. We'll just call him Miscellaneous Elf.
Alvre Nesandolarl. But anyway, his first name is Alre.
All right, Alray. Let's have a look at the original document you were talking about earlier.
Oh, he says this is not a document. He says this is a rubbing off of a very interestingly carved relief, right? And so he kind of leads you through various parts of the museum, past, works of art and things like that, into the more historical wing. And there is let's say it's a writing desk. So a beautiful wooden writing desk that's inlaid with all types of precious stones, agate, and other stuff, mother of pearl and things like that. And facing on it is the picture that he showed you, the various sections of it that he's taken rubbings of. And in this case, he says, what drew my eye to it is this, interesting, architectural design here between the waterworks and where it leads. He says, I'm not sure if this is a true depiction, right? Was an artist draws what he sees sometimes instead of what is actually there. But it's very fascinating to me. But yeah, you can see this very beautiful kind of relief carving in some type of metal, soft metal like pewter or lead that's been mounted on the front of this desk.
Okay, so on the desk there's writing from that first language.
Correct. Yes, in several places, especially on this relief carving on the front of the desk, there's, some scroll work, like in the old, especially like biblical drawings. You'd see cherubs or angels sometimes holding banners or with little scrolls that go underneath them. And in the corners, perhaps there's a little bit of illuminated manuscript, a very fancy looking letter or a shield with a family crest or something unidentifiable to you right now. But there are multiple examples of words from this old language, or you assume words from this old language written around on this particular piece of artwork.
I ask around and ask if anybody is working on translating the writing.
No. there's no one in this museum that specializes in these ancient tongues. And they said that there was a man once, about 20 years ago, an elf who was traveling around doing a study of ancient languages, more in particular the languages of the gods, as opposed to this ancient first language of the elves. And he was much more interested in the way that the divine tongue was very similar between all the deities of the different races. He says, and in the way that the divine tongue would match with the Eladrin tongue, which is, they call it the High Elven or True Elven, and also the way it matched with the Old Elvish tongue, the first elves of Cerelia. So he did study, but he is no longer here, and he has gone to the south. And his name was Foldun Fenlaxim.
All right. Oh, this seems like a dead end, I guess.
There. Now it's my Elven.
Well, I guess I'll be polite and spend a little time listening to this guy tell me about old things and then head back to where everybody else is.
Excellent. It doesn't take long. After a little bit of you, feigning interest in his history lessons, before you start to kind of glean. What's your passive insight?
It's good. 1 second. 19.
Wow, 19. Yes, you definitely get the vibe that this guy has the hots for you. Now, he's probably old enough to be your father, but in Elven community-wise, right, it's because they're so long-lived, age is much blurrier line. But by the end of it, you see he's moved closer to you, and he's been touching your arm and things like that. And finally, at the end of it, he says, if I may be so bold, I would like to escort you as your personal guest to the festivities in I think it was 4 days. The large banquet being held by your parents. You would do me a great honor by allowing me to go along with you.
I don't know. Is he good looking?
He is, in a kind of silver fox kind of way.
We're going to have to politely decline. I think Arwen prefers the younger folk.
All right. He of course looks a little bit embarrassed, but recovers quickly, as academics do. And he says, of course, how foolish of me. Well, he says, I look forward to seeing you there, regardless. And he says, please save a dance for me.
Absolutely, I will.
All right. He shows you back to the entrance to the museum, and then you part ways. Hatim, what are you doing? Seth's microphone is broken, so he's going to have to type it. If you're still there, Seth. Excellent. What would you like to do while you're not there? And for the recording, I'll just do my best Seth impersonation to read what you type. Yo! All right, so it says, for the first bit, I'm going to pray and worship. That's pretty spot on Seth impersonation, right?
Wait,
okay. Yes, you did. So, that's good. Hatim spends his time kind of, you find a clear space in one of the gardens on the, what's your family name, Arwen? Did we decide that yet?
I decided it in the first, when I filled out that background questionnaire, but I have no idea where that's at right now. Okay,
well, in Arwen's family's estate, there are several large gardens, and you're able to find a clear spot in one in the perfectly manicured lawns. That's one thing that they allow the gnomes to do for sure, is all the yard work. And you spend your time there just slowly spinning in a circle in the way of your people, while you meditate and gain a closer consciousness with Allah, and also sword. Is that you practicing some new sword moves? Because you don't use a sword. Sorry, Crystal, I stepped on you. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say to Tim, don't forget my dance lessons.
Yes, we'll get to that. Yes, you destroyed the sword. Do you still have the hilt? Because the blade shattered off, but you can still have the hilt if you want, Seth. Yeah, okay. So now the hilt is, of course, completely devoid of any magic. You do your arcane check and open up your mind's eye, and you cannot sense any magic. It's just a dead lump of steel in your hands. Beauty. Okay, excellent. Yes, you guys will have time here because you've just gotten back to Llyandre, and there'll be 3 days kind of just kind of get a rough idea of what you guys are doing in the next 3 days, and if you're working on your dance lessons, then that's fine with me. Murgatroyd and Vince, are you acting as a couple, or are you going to do individual tasks?
I assume Murgatroyd is somewhere drinking, because that's where I am.
Excellent.
I've been hanging out with the one other dwarf guy, and I've got a couple of kegs, so I'll split them with him and Vince.
Yes, and the household staff here has been instructed to extend to you every courtesy, so they can provide for you other beverages. Unfortunately, the bulk of what they have is elven wine, but after a bit of inquiring, you're able to get some nice halfling brews, some stronger liquor that is made by the halflings, so you don't just have to drink elven wine the whole time.
Nice. See if you can get a funnel and a tube.
Yeah, the other dwarf guy, what was his name? Hardbody, says that he's also excited about the prospect of getting a little firmer alcohol, and he thinks that anyway, he wastes little time in removing his armor and battle clothes and strips down to like just soft leather, like Ugg boots, which is the closest thing dwarves do to going barefoot, and just kind of, bums around in his sweats for a couple days, enjoying himself, feasting and dining on alcohol. It's not very, in fact, it's never in the history of dwarves, as far as you know, that a dwarf has been invited into the Salwood and then been allowed to leave afterwards. So you guys are celebrating and kind of enjoying it, even though it's not the most enjoyable surroundings, being a big, tree-hugging elf community. There's still some interesting, things for you to do and see.
They'll write stories about the dwarves that went to the Salwood.
They will, yeah.
I'll take a look around for somebody maybe that specializes in like curse removal, maybe.
Yeah, you are able to find some learned elven wizards.
I'll explain to them the situation that I'm in. Not how it's supposed to be a guy.
Oh, that situation.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of show them what I'm dealing with down there.
Oh, okay. Of course, being some older academic style men, some light flashing. Yes, they are. Of course, they're like, oh my, oh, all right. But one of them is just like, oh, please, as if you've never seen one before. He kind of shoos them away and says, step right this way, my fine young man, woman, my lad, come here. And he produces a tome and some magical amulets and starts doing some arcana checks on you. And he says, yes, I can see it's a fairly straightforward gender-swapping transmutation curse that's been placed on you. He said, where did you come about this spell, by the way?
It's a bit hazy. It's quite a while ago.
Yeah, it's been a lot of cocaine since then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was, some garden or something. And
he says,
I don't know.
Well, the easiest way, as far as I can tell here from my light deductions, for you to undo this particular curse is to return to this garden and pay some type of respect or tithe there. I think that you're going to have to go back and kind of undo what you did before.
And the hard way?
Well, the hard way is, I could fix it for you, but it could be costly and time-consuming.
I show him my bag of coke.
He kind of he chuckles and shakes his head, and he says, no, he says, I'm afraid I will require much harder currency, although I will accept Anurian gold.
How much?
He says, I'll have to do a little bit of calculating. I'll have to see about getting the proper equipment and the time and, some other proper spell expenditure and components. He says, give me an afternoon to do a little bit of research and I'll get back to you.
Sounds good. I like it.
Yes. Okay. Where was I? All right, I think that we kind of back to Jack. Sorry, Jack, we kind of left you in mid church there, but everyone else has kind of settled in for the long haul here over the next 3 days of prepping for this party. I didn't get any message from the others except for Herpes, and Herpes is just kind of busy moving himself around, trying to be helpful and important. In Dave's message, he just said, helping out with tactical. What did he say?
Yeah, I think he sent that to everyone.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So just helping with tactics, logistical support before the party. So Herpes is just kind of, whatever you guys are doing, he kind of just butts his head in and tries to give you some advice about, dancing or drinking or getting your gender swapped.
And we all wonder where he's come from.
Yeah, and then he just disappears.
So, Jack's just gonna continue trying to learn more about the local deities, how they interact with other deities outside of the area, like with, say, the human gods and with the dwarven gods and so on, because maybe Jack will make a pretty picture about it someday.
The elves look kind of baffled at you. And then they say, yes, I suppose that the gods must talk, but,
no one's bothered to ask.
No, and, the humans worship incorrectly, but they worship who they want to worship, and the dwarves worship, foolishly who they worship. And we worship the true gods, the proper gods, of course. And, if they want to worship what they worship, that's fine. But our gods, it's just a little strange that you would think that the gods are, in collaboration, that they communicate with each other.
Maybe not in collaboration, but I would think that they would at least be aware of each other and, if they are not working together, they might, Jack does not know how to describe this.
Yeah, that's okay, because the elves don't know what you're talking about either.
But Jack is not entirely certain himself. But Jack is curious as to if gods have interactions with each other, and if they do, how, and how that might affect things that transpire on this plane. Very almost academic curiosity on this.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question, and it's met with clumsy and fumbled answers, much like if you were to, in this world, ask, a Christian if Jesus ever talks with Buddha, right? It's like, I don't know, right? It's possible.
Or what Jesus would say to Buddha.
Yeah.
Although I would imagine they would both enjoy a cup of tea.
You get better answers about what would this god say to that god, for sure. And, a lot of it is religious rhetoric that you get from these priests, because they don't really know exactly. I guess it's always tough to try and imagine a world where the gods actually do manifest and speak to each other and exist on a plane. So, yeah, and interact with people. Yep. So some of them, like the higher ranking members of this church, say, oh, yes, in my dealings with the god, they have always proven to, be this way and speak this way about certain situations and beliefs. So, as what I can gather from the human God, that they believe this, that our God would say that perhaps they should reconsider the situation. And the elves, every kind of thing that you bring up, they always trying to work it back around to the fact that all the other races are not as in harmony with nature as they should be.
Yeah, Jack can appreciate that.
Seems to be the big overarching trend and the big message that any elven god would say to any human or dwarven, or in your case minotaur god, would be, hey, stop ripping up all the forests and building cities made of stone, and just try and, treat the earth better, man.
One last thing. Jack would be interested in reading religious texts from maybe olden days, especially ones that deal with the placement of the gods and the gods' opinions on things rather than just events that happened.
The abbot here, who is very interested that a large brutish monster like yourself is interested in, the finer details of religion, is happy to show you, as long as you're in the company of him and you notice, 2 or 3 other elven guys who are dressed in robes, but you can hear the sounds of armor underneath them.
Yep.
To show you some of these old texts and libraries, but of course they're all written in Sylvan, which looks like Sanskrit to you.
Well, I think Jack's going to have to try to learn how to read Sylvan, and I suspect it's going to be slow going.
Yes, and you'll have to find a different teacher than one of these abbots, because none of them want to spend the time to teach a minotaur to read. You're going to have to find like a primary school teacher.
Okay. So set that aside for now. It was a good idea. I'm going to have to learn more first before I can learn properly. Or learn how to learn. Yes.
Yeah, we'll cycle back to that one.
Jack is on his way to find a school teacher.
Excellent. So I'm going to say you spend this day searching around for school teachers, which at first is terrifying, but eventually, for them, you find a school teacher who is the wife of a soldier that was fighting with you in the north, and he's able to kind of bridge the gap and be like, no, honey, it's okay. Please help this minotaur as best you can. And she agrees to give you some lessons in the learning how to read and speak Sylvan Elven.
That sounds great. And I suspect that's going to take a while, possibly a couple days, as the group does whatever.
Oh, it's going to take more than a couple days. It's going to take 100 hours of study just to even crack the surface.
Well, I guess that's what I'm going to be doing during my off time. For the next while.
Excellent. Well, we'll keep track on it here. So for the next 2 days, you can log 2 6-hour days. So mark down that you spent 12 hours studying Sylvan language. And when we get to 100, then you'll kind of have learned the alphabet and a few simple words.
So I've learned 12 hours? So
12 hours, yeah. She gave you 2 6-hour lessons.
Do I not speak that?
You sure do.
Why don't you just ask me to teach you?
Does Arwen have the patience to teach someone to speak her language?
Also, I suspect I'll have to be doing this on the road at some point, so at that point, Jack will approach you. Right now, you don't know what Jack is doing.
My bad. I apologize.
You don't know Jack.
Yeah, way to mix player knowledge with character knowledge. The next couple days pass, and finally, the big event, the large party being thrown by Arwen's family on their estate. There are other parties throughout the city. This is kind of a citywide mass celebration, and of course, while you guys are here, as the Rod Stewards, you have been extended invitations by many of the noble families in Llyandre to please stop by and visit us. And in the tradition of like an open kind of loving nature community, the households are doors open to everyone, and you're encouraged to spend an hour at one house and then move to a different house and experience what they have to do there, and just kind of move throughout the city and go as the night takes you. Murgatroyd tracks as much mud through the elven homes as possible. That's great.
Yeah, I'm just gonna like accidentally kind of like rub up on all their things and maybe knock some things over by accident.
All right. Who has got what for passive perception, please?
Sorry, what was that question?
Passive perception, please.
16?
Okay.
Are you talking about these because of my question last week?
Yes.
Cool.
It's also a more kind of situationally appropriate time to use the passive abilities, and the fact that you reminded me also helps. So with an 18, Jack, you are actually the one who sees him. So in one of the houses, I'm guessing you guys all kind of stick together as the Rod Stewards, and you go from house to house, enjoying the various festivities.
Yes.
I guess. At some point I have to take a break from studying.
Right. Well, wherever you go, the party immediately livens up, and different venues have different things going on. Some of them have music, live bands playing mostly traditional elven music. One of the grander houses you go to has like a circus-style display going on, elven acrobats. And, one is a much more quiet, reserved thing as a play is being put on. Just various things to dip into and see, arts and culture, and other places have fantastic feasts of different varieties. You can see even one place has attempted to make dwarven delicacies, but it's all a little bit weird, like as if a vegan was making meat dishes. So it's, like shredded mushroom sloppy joes, or, pulled zucchini instead of pulled pork. But you recognize some of the some of the themes, Murgatroyd, and you're like, okay, that's supposed to be the classic dwarven dish of rat on a stick, only in this case it's, tomatoes and mushrooms on a stick that have been seasoned with traditional dwarven seasoning. And of course, the alcohol is flowing, and the smokables are being smoked from various elaborate and fancy hookahs. There is vices of all variety to be enjoyed in. Oh, I'm getting back to that, Jack.
Okay.
At one of these parties, I'm going to say that the first time you walk into this household, it's a little bit further out of town, but you heard a lot of noise and revelry coming from here, and by this point in the evening you guys are all a little warm and comfortable and high on the experience alone, let alone whatever kind of other things you might be high on. And that's fully up to you, depending how drunk any of your characters want to get or anything like that. Just let me know in the message box any kind of stimulants that you might be willing to partake in, as well as share, if you're willing to share some of your coke with various other partygoers, revelers. They will be Mitch does not share. You start to look into your bag and you're like, it's getting kind of low down here. You're like, oh, I got maybe 2 good fistfuls maybe left. So, Jack, you definitely, incur some some looks, and mostly disappointed looks, as hosts of the party try and press the, here is the finest vintage of elven wine, but you just request water, and they, like, oh,
Someone has to make sure they get home safe and not cause too much trouble.
The host of this particular party says, "Oh, Jack of the Rod Stewards," he says, "everywhere in Llyandre is your home tonight." He says, "You will be safe no matter where you lay your head. Come, partake, please. The battle is over. Now is the time to relax, to celebrate."
Do you know how little water I've gotten in the past 3 months? Water is a treat.
He said, "Yes, water is divine, a gift from the gods, but this,"
Exactly.
proffers the goblet to you again. "This is ambrosia. This is the drink of the gods."
Then I am not worthy.
He says, "Very well. It's a good thing I am," and he quaffs back the drink, in a gesture that would normally produce some spilling, but elves never spill their drinks. Unlike the dwarves, you can see, whose mustaches and beards are all stained red with the wine. Yeah, and any Murgatroyd that goes into your beard or mustache, you just wring back out into the cup and then drink it again. That's classy. Murgatroyd's a classy dwarf. Excellent. So, later on in the evening, as you find your way to a, slightly on the outskirts of town, as you just kind of move with the tides of elves flowing hither and yon, you kind of look around as you approach this large manor house and grounds here, which is surrounded by a wall, a stone wall, which is very peculiar. There's, not a lot of stone structures and almost no walls, even between, large estates here in Llyandre. But this one is hemmed in with a stone wall. The gates are, of course, still open, and there's torches burning down the long laneway leading to the house. But it's a different feeling when you're here in this house. And kind of casting around, you see that there's a lot more kind of harder looking elves, more soldiers kind of thing, especially soldiers wearing the tabard that denotes that they were in the southernmost battle fighting the orcs. And inside this house is a lot of, everything is kind of old decoration-wise here in Llyandre, a lot of antiques. But in this house, it's more like Gothic than classic, right? The chairs all are higher backed and wing out at the top in, a deeper red velvet. The furniture is all kind of stained with a darker stain. This is just a little bit more Addams Family in this house. You eyeball the elves to see if they're worthy in a drinking contest, and you get eyeballs back from the elves that, you kind of get like, not a drinking contest. They want to physically fight you, right? Yeah. You your hand goes to your mug, and their hands go to their, daggers that are on their belts. Because even though they're not dressed, I guess some of them were still dressed in their soldier's garb because that's, what they have. And they've gotten back and have done, it looks like 3 days of partying and are still dirty and things like that, but they're welcome here. Yeah. So you approach one of these southern soldiers to pull him aside, Jack, and he kind of looks you up and down, and he says something in the elvish tongue at first, and then kind of rolls his eyes and says in clumsy Anurian, "What do you want?"
How did orcs fight? How did they rebel?
He kind of takes a drink and then wipes his mouth on the back of his hands, and he says, "The orcs fight like brutish cowards." He says
that sounds about right.
"We are not surprised that they eventually dissolve to infighting. The orcs are untrained and chaotic in their nature. They are brutes, little more than animals. Had they not fled, we would have enjoyed putting them all to sleep." And he kind of laughs to himself, and he said, "They would face the same fate as our friends inside." Ha ha ha.
That fought the other orcs, did they have special sign?
He kind of is like, yeah, who knows? Orcs are orcs. They smear shit on a flag.
I was kind of hoping some would come to the north to fight the undead. But that is besides the point. Come, let us drink, and I'll drag him off to go get drunk.
He
But I
he
won't
wants to
actually
stay
drink.
with his friends here, but you can drink with them. He's reluctant to get dragged off anywhere.
That's fine.
Okay, but you guys can drag yourselves off.
I'll bring them a couple drinks. As
All right, you
sign of friendliness.
you follow the sounds of the shouting and the more loud kind of revelry through the house, where you can see particularly downcast and poorly treated gnome slaves. These ones are all much skinnier than the others and have a very beaten look about them. They don't make eye contact with anyone, especially with Vince. They just, you gotta stay out of your way. It's almost hard to see them. How skulky they are. And you make your way through the house and out kind of a grand doorway leading to a grotto, which is almost all stone. So this grotto has lovely plants and things along the sides, but has a very large circular stone area that is just packed with elves, all men, all kind of cheering and jeering, and you can hear curses, elvish curses, which you guys are kind of familiar with now, and it sounds like it's combat coming from the center of this big circle. Yeah, even though the house is slightly elevated looking down, you can't really see what's going on in the center. Occasionally you see some kind of flurry of activity coming from the middle of this circle, but it's hard to see from the ground level. If you could get yourselves up a little higher, you could probably see, or try and push through the crowd.
I'm there as well.
Oh yeah, you're all there.
Yep. I'll offer to lift someone up to have a better look. Murgatroyd, you want to look? You want a boost?
I'm sure.
I'll boost him up.
All right, you pick up Murgatroyd and put him on your shoulders. And that gets a few looks from people around you, but they're like, whatever, it's a party. And from this vantage point, Murgatroyd, you can now see that in the center of the circle are two orcs fighting each other. They're stripped to the waist. They just have loincloths on.
And this is like an event put on by the elves?
Yeah, it looks that way.
These cruel bastards. Can we get over there and watch?
Yeah, it's easy enough, especially with, Jack's presence and Hatim's big muscles. You guys can push your way through.
Can we go fight some elves?
If you want to pick a fight, this is definitely the place to do it.
Get some elf-on-elf violence. Get Arwen to go fight some elves with us.
All right. As you kind of push your way into get up to the center of the crowd, you see one orc has another orc kind of pinned to the ground, and the orc that's down looks up through like one swollen, bloody eye, and most of his face is brutalized. He looks up and he coughs, and he says something to the orc who's on top of him, and the orc who's on top of him just kind of grabs his head and starts smashing it into the stones over and over and over. And when you look to the face of the orc who's on top smashing the other orc's face, and he's just crying, tears are streaming down his face.
Aw, man, I didn't know orc felt that way.
That is 3 kinds of messed up.
And the elves are all kind of just cheering and throwing little scraps of food and hurling insults at these orcs. The orc that was on top who killed the other one just kind of slumps back and falls onto his ass and lets his head hang between his shoulders as the other elves kind of cheer. And you see the elves are passing around money as though they were betting on this event.
Arwen is not down with that shit.
Neither is Jack.
Neither is Murgatroyd on a technical level. He wants to find whoever's the bookie. We can stop him. He's probably the one that organized this. And you guys can deal with him, and I'll make sure that his payroll gets totally distributed back to the elves.
I love that idea.
Okay, so Murgatroyd, make a streetwise check for me to try and figure out which one is the guy taking all the bets. 16 is enough. So it takes Murgatroyd a little bit. You guys are all kind of casting your eyes around. You see some elves come out with the long hollow poles with a metal wire around the end of it and sloop it around the orc's neck and wrists, and they zip them tight, and the exhausted weeping orc kind of chokes for a bit, and then they kind of roughly haul him up to his feet, and the four of them drag him off into another direction. Meanwhile, you can hear some cheers and stuff as two more orcs are being roughly manhandled into the circle. One of them, Jack, you recognize right away as being Nutsack. And Murgatroyd, it's at that moment that Jack recognizes Nutsack. Murgatroyd, you see the guy who's taking all the bets. And do you point him out to Jack?
Yeah, I mean, if he's still around me.
Excellent. Yeah, you guys are all still together. Yes, Hatim, you're there, and you can do that in just a second. But
I'll
first,
be like, yeah, this guy's running the show.
so Murgatroyd points out the guy to Jack, and Jack, you managed to tear your eyes away from the grisly scene of the blood pool as they drug the dead orc away by his ankles, and some of the elves are spitting on his corpse as he was drug away. And you look up in the direction that Murgatroyd is pointing, and you see Barakt, the elf who ambushed you guys in the woods and captured you and drug you before the thing and stole all your shit.
Oh shit, he's the one taking the bets?
He's the one taking the bets.
Come on, guys, think it over. Let's not get murdery.
But, I mean, we're not going to be able to stealth up to him because, we have a Minotaur with us.
Oh, no, we can beat him. Let's just not murder him.
Right, but we have to get to him, or maybe since you're an elf, you may be able to sneak up and get close enough to him that, if he tries to run when he notices a Minotaur, because, he's gonna run for sure. Or
All right. So he hasn't noticed us yet.
Interesting. So in just to answer Josh's questions, yes, Nutsack is the leader. He was the big leader. So you guys first sent up the followers of the one Jack, but then their army got
originally led by Baruch at the time.
Yeah, Baruch. But quickly it got taken over by the much stronger forces of Nutsack. And they all kind of became one. But then when you guys met up with them, Nutsack was the guy who said to you, if you come and fight with me on the front lines, then I'll believe you. But otherwise, right? He was the real jerk. You guys actually fought him in the woods, if you remember. And he was particularly brutal. You guys had to run from that fight. Anyway, here he is now. He's looking pretty badly wounded. He's got a limp going on, and maybe even one eye has been completely slashed out. I'm gonna say all the teeth, from his canines to the front of his mouth, have all been smashed out, and his tongue is just kind of peeking out through swollen, cracked lips. He is not looking in good shape at all. And so you see Nutsack, and then you looked over at Barakt, who is the elf, and Hatim steps out into the circle to say something, whatever Hatim is about to say, and kind of all at this same moment, Barakt looks up and sees you guys, and the look, kind of his eyes open wide, and he freezes, and the little cheroot that he was smoking stops and spins from his mouth before it hits the ground. Hatim yells, so what would you like to, how are you trying to get these people's attention? Are you appealing to their better nature? Are you trying to be a dominating presence? Is it diplomacy or intimidation you're going for here, Hatim? Excellent. Make an intimidation roll, please. You did, Hatim, but your fight was almost entirely in the north, and this particular group is elves that were fighting in the south. So most of them know of the Rod Stewards, but none of these particular soldiers saw you in action. But an intimidation roll, please. All right, so you step out into the center of the circle and yell, stop this madness. But the elves just keep yammering on and placing bets and shouting and things like that. A couple of them yell at you in Sylvan and kind of wave their hands like they're trying to tell you to get out of the ring. Did you, Hatim, ever meet Nutsack? I don't think you did. No, because you went north. So Nutsack looks up at you too and sees a human, but doesn't know what you're doing here. but he sees past you and sees Jack, and his kind of eye narrows, and his tongue slips back in past his teeth, which turn into a scowling grimace. As like, no wonder, you have allied yourself with these terrible and treacherous elves. Wow. Okay. Arwen, it's going to be a strength check for you to kind of shove people aside, and this one's going to be an interesting question for you to answer, and I'm going to ask all of you too. Would you have brought your weapons to go for a party around the town?
I always bring my weapon, especially in my hometown that I already know is highly racist, and I'm traveling with several other races.
It's true, and it is kind of also your holy symbol too, right? I mean, you have the amulet that's your holy symbol, but it's a piece of your faith, this bow. So that's fine. But you would wear your bulky armor around Jack?
It's pretty much his only clothes.
Fair enough. We'll say that in the time you weren't learning over the last 2 days, you spent some time cleaning and, removing the undead from it. And the large amounts of your own blood, too. So your armor is back to being kind of presentable. If you had given it to the gnome slaves, I don't know what Jack's stance is on slavery, they would have it back to shining pristine for you. But if you insisted on doing it yourself, it's just back to good condition.
He would have done it himself.
Okay. Excellent, Arwen. Take a shot then. I'm sorry, first make a strength check because you're kind of tightly packed here. You're going to have to shove some people away to gain enough room to draw a longbow out.
I'm not sure how I make a strength check.
So, this was one of the questions I remember you asking, but then not asking at Spaghetti Night. So there might be a button on your character sheet that you can push. It'll be near strength, but if there's not, you roll a d20 and add strength mod plus half level.
So next to strength, it says 14 strength. It says mod 2. It says mod plus half level 5, and that's the only thing I can click on is the 5.
Then that's what you click on. Mod plus half level is 5. Oh my god, you got a critical success.
I love me.
Yeah, no kidding. So Arwen, in one just beautifully graceful and swift moment, all of your dance training with Hatim has paid off here because you're able to slough the bow off your shoulder and kind of whip around, drawing an arrow and completing your little pirouette as you use your hips to shove people into a nice diameter so you have space to draw your bow, which, people see when you're drawing it. They'll kind of reel back and stuff like that. And just as the cheroot that the guy was smoking hits the flagstones of the ground, you shoot off your bow. Now you critted, so I'm just going to let that roll. Where would you like to have hit him?
Shoulder.
In the shoulder? All right. Your longbow arrow slams clean through his shoulder, going all the way through to the flights and sticking out the back of it. That arm immediately goes limp, and the large amounts of elven coins that was in that hand just kind of scatter to the ground, where a few guys who haven't been really paying attention kind of bend to scoop them up. Because he is who he is, he had enough of a circle around him of empty space that the arrow did not go through him and into somebody else. But at that moment, he kind of shrieks and then turns to run through the crowd.
Is he not pinned to a wall or something?
No, because you're in the middle of like a big grotto. Vince, what would you like to do?
That guy's running away.
He sure is.
Can I teleport in front of him?
Yes, you can.
And clothesline him?
Yes, I'm going to say that first you get to make a wisdom check of DC 13 in order to, because you're teleporting into a crowd, unless you want to teleport above him and then just drop on him.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, in that case, acrobatics check, DC 15. All right. I didn't give you any minuses for being drunk and whatnot. So unfortunately, there are some minuses to that. So you teleport to, just the right place, but because you have been drinking and imbibing other substances, you you are teleporting the wrong way. Facing the wrong way. So instead of teleporting above him to, do a nice little splash on top of them, belly flop style, you come out of the teleport and find yourself staring up into a beautiful starry sky. And, the lights of the torches illuminated behind you, and it's very peaceful for just a moment. It reminds you of when you were in the elemental plane of chaos, and you found yourself floating into the infinite starry reaches of the universe. And then gravity kind of takes over and brings you slamming down on top of Barakt, who will attempt to make a dodge here. He does. He does a clumsy little sideways roll as you kind of land on a couple other people that are near him, crowd surfing style. You can hear the snapping sound as the arrow breaks off, and he shrieks again, but you fall into a heap at the feet of these other elves, who are kind of chanting and still pretty excited about what's going on in the ring fight-ways, but a few of them have turned to kind of see why this guy's running and why someone else has just kind of teleported over top of them. Murgatroyd, your turn.
I'll start yelling that the bookie's stealing everyone's money and to stop him.
All right. Murgatroyd begins shouting things in common, which is not really understood by the greater population here, as they mostly speak Sylvan, Salwood Elven. A few people kind of look at you, Murgatroyd-wise, and then kind of look back up at the fleeing form.
Pointing motions while I'll run towards them.
Excellent. Are you going to run through the circle, or are you going to try and push your way through the crowd?
Is it a shorter path to go through the circle?
It is a shorter path to go through the circle, but there are now two orcs in the circle, one of which, I guess both of which see the dwarf, and orcs and dwarves are pretty natural enemies.
Yeah, I'll run through this circle and just do a Zoidberg noise while I run past the orcs. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Okay, one of the orcs hauls back and tries to kick you. He does at a 15 versus your AC.
No.
So, no. But do you have your shield out, too?
Probably not. I just have it on my back.
So just, factor in that.
Yep, it'll be 25.
Yeah, you got it. Perfect. So, he goes to boot at you, but just kind of your little Zoidberg is scuttly enough, and he's still being restrained by the choking wires around his neck. You dive into the crowd in hot pursuit of Barakt. Hatim. Excellent. You kind of stand between the orcs who, after the one tries to boot at the dwarf and gets choked back, the elf handlers are just kind of looking at you perplexed as you're holding your ground, and one of them says to you in broken common, these are our orcs. We can do with them as we please. And they are only orcs. All right, Hatim gives him a dirty look. He seems to be unfazed by your dirty look, and he says to you, please step back out of the circle. We are eager to have the next round begin. And then he says something in the Sylvan tongue, kind of shouts it to the crowd. The crowd, cheers, and you can see a few more of them are, making little side bets with each other and stuff. All right. He kind of looks a bit perplexed at you and rolling up your sleeves and looks at the orcs. He's like, he says, I see you want to fight the orcs. I understand. He said, I gave this one a good roughing up before the fight. Do you want me to hold him down? And he kind of jerks down on the choke chains that he's got holding Nutsack, forces him down to one knee. And he says, all right. Hatim steps forward and punches this elf guy. He does not see it coming, so I guess just roll for damage. D4 plus strength mod. Wow, minimum damage is still 5 damage. All right, your fist slams into the face of this elf. Right, you can feel kind of the bones knit in your knuckles, but the satisfying crunch of hearing his nose and probably his orbital bone break. One eye immediately goes bloodshot red. Blood begins to fountain out of his nose as his head snaps back. His hands go loose on the choke chain, which causes Nutsack to stagger to his feet. And the other 3 elves, jerk down harder on their chains to bring Nutsack back down to the ground. The crowd just erupts. Some cheering, some angry and furious. You can see elves around now, reaching for their their sides to produce daggers and things. The elves that are still dressed in their soldiers' uniforms are, hunting for their short swords. They're not happy at all. Jack, your turn. And Jack, with your passive perception, you see that the little path cleared by Barakt at first and now Murgatroyd, you see about half a dozen other elves that look like southern soldiers, and perhaps even that one looks kind of familiar, like he was one of Barakt's platoon, kind of peel off, and they don't head directly after Murgatroyd and Barakt. They're headed off somewhere to the right, as if they have another plan afoot. But it's your turn, Jack.
I can't pay them too much attention right now. Nutsack is being held down by chains, you said? Held by other elves?
Yeah, so now there's 3 other elves, and they have those poles, and the poles are hollow, but they fed like wire through them, so they got little loops around them, and now only one has a pole around his throat, and the other 2 are holding him by the wrists, and they're holding him down. Man catchers. Thank you, yeah.
I'm going to walk up to Nutsack, standing very straight, very tall, kind of catch his attention, and I'm going to reach out and touch him on his shoulder, cast Cure Light Wounds, just give him a perk up, make him feel like, even though we have our disagreements, he has an ally, so to speak. And then I'm going to say out loud, freedom is the right of all sentient beings. And I'll see if I can sway some of the crowd with that.
Excellent. As you walk towards Nutsack, he just looks at you with the most venomous hatred in his eyes, and shrinks back a little bit, fighting against the restraints that these guys have. But you can see he's weak. He's been badly wounded. And you look down and you see he's got like a stomach wound that is still bleeding, from some kind of jabby, pointy weapon that has been driven into his gut and not allowed to heal. But when you reach out and heal him, he looks at you with surprise, and that wound on his stomach is the one that closes up and stops bleeding. You see a little bit of the flesh, the darker green, come back onto his face as he grits what's left of his teeth, and he looks surprised. Anyway, and you start your speech. Freedom is the right of all sentient creatures, and the couple soldier elves that are holding down Nutsack look to you and look to Nutsack, and they start shouting things in Sylvan to each other, which Arwen, you understand they're saying they're working together. They've been in it together all along. The Minotaur is working with the orcs, and you all hear that the other orc, the elves who are holding him down, they let loose their man-catcher restraints, and they say to him, here's your chance. Win your freedom. Take down the Minotaur.
Arwen tries to reason with them.
Excellent. It is Arwen's turn. So.
Oh, I apologize.
No, that's fine. It's your turn. So, yes, how would you like to reason with them? What would you like to say?
They're not in cahoots. We just don't like to see slaves. The war is over. You should let the prisoners go.
All right.
Or at least keep them in jail.
Yes, you say that. One or two of the elves kind of look to you and nod, as though like, oh man, you know what? This paladin knows some shit, right? And they recognize you as Arwen of your house. And like, oh, maybe she's right. But most of the soldiers and stuff, they just respond by saying, she shot Barakt. This is like, oh my gosh, she shot Barakt. She's the one who shot Barakt. Look, she's got her bow out. Uncalled for. She says, they say, just a second here. Zelfar. So they say, oh, here comes Zelfar. Oh, she shot his brother. and a particularly nasty and mean-looking elf kind of pushes his way through the crowd, and you can see that his eyes are wild, as though he has also been enjoying the stimulants of the evening. And he, shouts out to Aro, and he says, you shot my brother in my own home.
Yes, I did, because your brother was doing not nice things.
He kind of looks you up and down, and he says, I know you. He says, you who went away, who disappeared from the Silewood to learn of other cultures. He says, pah, you have become tainted by the outside world. Here, this is our home. You dare tell us what to do with our own slaves in our own home. He turns to his men, and he says, remove her.
Interesting. Give me a second.
You recognize this guy. This
It's
guy
not
Zelfar.
his face.
You remember him from when you were a kid. And he was not a nice guy, even back then. He, was one of those kids who tortured small animals and stuff like that. He was a bully in and around the elven schoolyards. And his family, the Barakt is actually their family name, right? So this guy's name is Zelfar Barakt. And he is, he was always a real kind of bully who was allowed to get away with it because his family was wealthy and had influence.
Well, I am not going to let you abuse other races just for your enjoyment.
He laughs. He says, well, hold on. And he kind of waves his hand to the half dozen or so elves that are approaching you. And he says, don't kick her out. Keep her around. Perhaps we'll abuse someone from our own race for our own amusement. And he, very tactlessly grabs his crotch as he says this.
Oh dear. We're going to have to probably fire an arrow at him too.
All right. Go for it.
Sorry, Jack. I just used you as a target.
Yeah, target someone.
13 versus AC is not enough for this guy. He kind of sees it coming. He's watching you very intently. So as you whip an arrow out with your lightning speed, knock it, and whip up the bow, he just kind of steps to one side, and your arrow slams into the temple of another elf who's just kind of drinking a big glass of elven wine. And he just kind of, and he drops to the ground. You hear the shatter of his wine bottle, and he hits the ground. People kind of scream.
Can I change that up a bit to say that I shot that arrow off as a distraction to move closer to punch him in the face?
Yes. So you meant to miss. Are you trying to make it so that you don't kill a random person at the party?
I do not want to kill a random person at the party.
Excellent. All right. In that case, your shot, instead of going into that guy's head, slams into the wine bottle. I don't know if I'm actually want. So, because you're new, usually what's done is done. But I'm gonna let you have a do-over here because you're new. But don't expect these too often, Crystal. And in fact, if someone's got a bump point, this would be a time to sacrifice it so that Crystal can undo this killing of a random person.
Did I actually just kill a random person?
Yes, if you were trying to shoot this guy, Zelfar Barakt, and missed, there's so many people at this party that your arrow goes into the crowd and hits someone.
The sheet says Crystal's got 1, Valhalla's got 4, and it's blank for everyone else. So I think we already used all ours.
Okay, Crystal. Well,
I will use mine.
you used it?
Oh, I will.
Okay, good. Yes. So scratch off that Crystal has used her bump point. So
I use one to unbump it.
That is so mean.
Put it lower, just kill 2 people.
So I'm going to say that in movie style, you kind of see your arrow, if you shoot at Zelfar and you miss, you're going to hit this guy. So you adjust your aim very slightly, and it whiffs past Zelfar, just kind of feathering his hair as the arrow goes. And yes, it slams into the wine bottle that partier was kind of holding up to pour into his mouth, which explodes, and it doesn't kill anybody, but the shattering wine bottle still sends ripples of alarm throughout the party goers who are kind of brought into the here and now as they realize that shit is kind of going down. All right.
I'm going to say that was a warning. Back off.
he kind of chuckles and says something derogatory like, "I like 'em fiery." I'm going to put all of them in initiative there. So, Vince, your turn. You are showered by a spray of wine and bits of broken bottle as you lie on your back on the ground.
I'll hop up.
All right.
Yeah.
You
So
kind of hop up and you're standing just a little bit behind this guy who is talking with Arwen. You can see he's got a particularly nasty, kind of curved, wavy, ceremonial-looking dagger tucked into the back of his belt, which his hand is slowly reaching back for.
I'll,
I'm going to say go ahead and just give yourself like -2 to all rolls that are based on intelligence and -3 to all rolls that are based on physicality.
I'll punch him in the back of the head.
Okay. So it'll be -3 to your attack rolls.
What's like a unarmed attack?
It's just a basic melee attack, so it's strength mod plus half level. Yeah, because you're not proficient in barehanded fighting or anything.
Yeah. -3.
Yeah, -3, please. Oh, 16. That's a damn good roll. Unfortunately, it's not enough to... Well, you know what? He doesn't see it coming. He's not expecting it. I'm going to say, yeah, you hit. Go for it. I like it. Excellent. Similarly, yeah, you slam your fist in the back of his head. You can hear the snapping sound as your ring and pinky finger both break with uncoordinated punching into somebody's skull, kind of the hardest part of a person's body. But you also hear the sharp intake of air as he's a surprise if you punching someone square in the back of the head unexpectedly. And he may even fall over. Oh my god, yes! If anyone wants to spend a bump point to turn that 2 into a crit fail.
I think I have one, maybe? I don't know, could be old.
According to the sheet, only Valhalla has some now, but it may not be the most updated.
Well, we'll go by the sheet for now because I know that Jay and Jake have been pretty good about updating it. So unfortunately, nobody can bump that down to a crit fail. But still, he falls. He falls on all fours, mostly with surprise that you punched him in the back of the head. Murgatroyd, your turn.
How close am I to any of the guy I was chasing?
He had a bit of a head start on you, so you're gonna have a hard time catching him, even sprinting because he's sprinting, and I'm pretty sure he moves faster than you.
Right. He didn't get slowed down by Mitch almost falling on him.
He got slowed down a bit. Like, you can see him. If you want to try throwing a weapon while you're running, you could hit him with a thrown weapon, assuming that nobody from the crowd steps out into his way, because he is kind of pushing his way through the crowd. So are you, all right? So if you miss, you're going to hit a random elf.
Which we're trying to avoid doing.
Which Crystal?
Dozens of elves probably on you, yes?
All right. I don't know. I'll try a little dwarf burst of speed charge at him, see if I can get him. Then I'll quickly give up if he's still gaining.
All right, make an endurance check for me, please. I know your endurance is through the roof, so let's have an endurance check to get this burst of speed. Oh my god, this is kind of the first low roll of endurance you made. So yes, you get a little burst of speed into you, and you're maybe 3 or 4 people behind him. So he's pushing through, drunken party guys who kind of spin around and then end up back in your path again as you punch an elf in the balls, and he slumps over. You leap over that guy, push through 2 elvish women who are standing there chatting as he's kind of leaping over a table, which you then slide underneath. It's pretty classic James Bond chase through a party sequence.
Do I have a clear eye shot of him? Or is there still people between us?
There's still people between you, but it looks like he's headed off to kind of, away from the main party. So not this turn, but maybe next turn you'll have a clear line of sight.
Okay, I'll keep pursuing him then.
All right. Hatim, back to you. The elf that you punched, he's kind of regaining his senses, and you look around and you see a couple other elves have reached for weapons on their belts and things, and, these are other soldiers. And they are advancing towards you cautiously because you are an intimidating form. Oh, Seth, are you still there, buddy? Did we lose you? Did Seth post a "be right back" that I missed somewhere? Oh,
I see.
there he is. too busy watching YouTube videos on other people's turns. You're close enough that you could close and attack him if you wanted to. He's down on all fours.
Soccer kick him right in the noodle.
Yeah, and this is his house, too. If you thought you made these guys mad by punching this soldier, punching the guy whose party you're at.
Well, we gotta teach them a lesson, though, but we don't want to really actually hurt anyone really bad.
Yeah, I think it's looking like orcs abused is going to be the least of your worries right now. And as far as anyone getting ganged up on, it's you. You're the one getting ganged up on. The elf that you punched, he kind of spits the blood from his nose and exhales sharply to blow some of it out of his nose. You see his eye is already starting to swell and close shut. He looks at you and he says, "You made a big mistake, man." And not like, "You did it, man." He's like insulting, using the fact that you are a human as an insult. Excellent. Hatim is equal to the challenge and returns the insult to the elf. Are you actually going to call him swine, or are you going to try and say something that's more hurtful to an elf? I guess calling him swine is pretty hurtful to this aristocratic kind of soldier elf here. Assume, that he is lower class. Yeah, any kind of hippie insult is good. Tree hugger, leaf eater, moss walker, pointy ears.
Come on now.
Yes, dull-eared dirt eater. That would be a vicious insult. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's great. I love the racism. So, Crystal, you hear Tim, who's been nothing but nice to you this whole time, drop a vicious racial slur against one of your people.
I have been listening to the whole situation and realized that he is just saying that to get under his skin and that he doesn't really mean it.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, you deal with his racial slurs later, right? That's what you get at. Perfect. I love it. Okay, excellent. So then it's their turn. Yes, at first the soldier is going to take a swing at Hatim and attempt to punch him in the chops. That's a 15 versus your AC, Hatim. All right, his swollen eye has affected his depth perception. He steps forward, but he whiffs air ball in front. You're already beginning to move in your dancer's stride, Hatim, and you easily head bob away from this fist as it streaks through the air towards you. The other elves are kind of closing in, but they just kind of stop, some of them with their weapons half drawn, a couple with daggers already out, kind of tossing it back from hand to hand just to see how this is going to play out. The three that are holding Nutsack, are straining against the things as Nutsack is starting to stand up. They look a little panicked, and one of them kicks Nutsack in the ribs and the guts, which elicits a little bit of a grunt from Nutsack, but just seems to make him more determined as he starts to stand up, even though they're straining against the man-catcher wire around his throat. It starts to cut through the skin, and a little bit of orcish blood comes out, but Nutsack is still drawing as deep raspy breaths as he can through his oversized nose, and eventually pulls all the man-catchers out of their hands and rips the one off of his throat, and the other two kind of bounce around as they're on his throat, and once his windpipe is free from restraint, he bellows a terrifying orcish shout directly into the face of these elven captors. This causes the orc who is bearing down on Jack to kind of stop for a second and look around as though he's unsure as what he should do, torn between the fact that there are more elves, and if he starts to fight them, he's probably going to die, and he was promised his freedom if he kills the Minotaur, but who knows with these elves, they might just kill him anyway or throw him back into prison. You can see a bunch of conflicting thoughts as he kind of unclenches and clenches his fists and gazes around, trying to gauge what he should do in this situation. Zelfer, he kind of stands up, wipes a big line of drool from his lips, and looks back towards Mitch and kind of cracks his neck, and he says, "You, high elf, I should have known you are one of them." He spits on the ground, and he says, "I've always wanted to do this," and he hauls back and attempts to punch Vince. That is 18 versus your AC, Vince.
Hit.
3 points of damage as his fist kind of slams into your solar plexus. He brought in with a nice low body blow kind of thing. You get a little bit of knocks the wind out of you. Some spittle comes out of your mouth as well, and your vision kind of goes from the swimmy, drug-induced haze that you're in to a bit of a double vision, but then refocuses itself. And then Jack, your turn.
I'm going to see if I can convince the orcs to stand down for now. That this is not a fight that they can win. Would that be like a charisma or what?
That is going to be some kind of diplomacy roll.
I will roll diplomacy.
Yeah, you could try and just do it charisma based instead of what's diplomacy based on? I think diplomacy is a charisma based skill.
It is.
Okay, yeah, diplomacy will work then. Nutsack turns and kind of looks at you with his one good eye, the other one still swollen shut from abuse. Oh no, his eye was gouged out, so it was just one good eye, but you can see just madness, absolute madness in his eyes, that if he is going to die, he is going to go down swinging. And he kind of, just turns away from you as though he doesn't even hear, and begins to attack the elves. Oh God, he slaps his hands together in a giant clapping motion, this motion casting the 2 man catchers off of his wrist, but both hands meet on either side of one of these elves' heads, and you can hear like the soft, wet, but unmistakable crunching sound of his skull being fractured. Blood fountains out of the nose as the eyes kind of roll back in the head, and that elf goes limp and drops to the ground.
Can I do anything else?
Yes.
I'm gonna see if I can restrain him, or at least begin to restrain him.
All right. With a man catcher or with your bare hands?
Bare hands, of course.
All right.
Or
so that'll be
hands.
a grapple. Strength versus his reflex. I forget where my notes are on Nutsack here. Oh, that's definitely going to do it. Nice. Good roll. His reflex is not 27. So yeah, you get your hands up behind him. You get him in like a full Nelson, holding his arms back now, and on his next turn he will try and struggle and escape. But it's Arwen's turn.
I go to the person that Nutsack I don't know if they killed or injured, but assess the situation of that person.
That person is definitely negative hit points. His you can see through part of the ripped and torn skin and fractured skull, the brain, which has been severely damaged. This person is dying.
Can I heal them?
Yes. It's not dead yet, so you can still heal.
I'm gonna lay hands right on them.
Just so you can beat them up more?
I don't want anyone to die. I just don't want them to be having slave fighters and crap.
All right. Arwen, yes, you drop to one knee and extend your left hand, your right hand still gripping the bow, and you invoke Athena's blessing to heal this member of your kinship. Even though his doings have been wrong, he can be brought around to see the light. The wound kind of closes up, and his eyes shut. He is alive but unconscious.
Misguided doesn't mean bad. What else? Do I have another action?
I think so. I think your lay on hands is only a minor, so yeah, you do have another action.
Are there any other menacing people around?
Yes, there are a bunch of southern elven soldiers, but they look like they don't want to mess with you because they know who you are and they know who your father is. But they're definitely menacing towards the Minotaur, especially now that the Minotaur has his back turned to them. But because the Minotaur is wrestling with the ogre, they're not sure what's going on. However, the other ogre, who now sees the Minotaur is fighting with Nutsack, kind of cracks his knuckles and looks at Jack again, like he's gonna engage to fight Jack.
All right, I'm gonna take up a position back to back with the Minotaur, and I'm gonna make sure that nobody messes with him.
All right, so yeah, in that case, you kind of slide into that spot, using some nice, smooth dance moves that Hatim just taught you. You get back to back with Jack, and in the same fluid motion, draw and knock an arrow in the bow and look at that ogre. And he looks at you in the eyes, and you look at him in the eyes, and he just kind of grits his teeth and spits out a curse that you recognize as being something in the orcish tongue that is slanderous towards elves.
Registered.
Yeah, as though he just kind of called you the orcish equivalent of the elvish N-word. All right, back to... Oh, no, yep, Vince gets to go.
So who is Jack holding? He's not holding the dude I punched, is he?
No, Jack is holding Nutsack.
And the dude I punched is...
The dude you punched just punched you, so he's right up in your grill.
All right, I'll use another teleport to get in front of Nutsack, and I'll punch him in the gut while Jack's holding him.
Excellent. All right, go for the attack. All right, you slam your fist into Nutsack's stomach, but it's like punching a burlap sack full of rice, right? You're just hitting something incredibly hard, and you're already broken fingers. Yeah, take a point of damage to your hand as you can punch into him. You're like, oh, son of a bitch.
Can I do a bunch of coke as a minor?
Yes, you can.
All right.
Your hand kind of automatopoeia dips your now extra long pinky nail into the coke bag and wafts it up into your... you trying to do enough to counteract the being drunkenness?
Yeah.
All right, get +5 to all your stuff. You are racing high on the demon coke again. But you kind of hear a little tiny voice in the back of your head before the overwhelming voice of Kshatriy going, yeah, cocaine. The little tiny voice in the back of your head that almost sounds like the very nice old Eladrin woman who used to take care of you in your youth says, that's almost 3 times as much coke as you were taking before. So yeah, you've built up a bit of a tolerance to it. Murgatroyd, you've got a bit of a line of sight on him now. You're thinking that you might be able to fling a throwing axe or something and hit him. Just don't crit fail. A crit fail will mean that you're gonna...
I'm gonna run as fast as I can for my move towards him, and then just like grab my shield off my back with both hands and just kind of fling it at him.
Excellent. Is it a round shield? I guess we never established this.
I always picture it as a kite shield, so it'd be like kind of pointy on the bottom and then just have like a roundish top part.
All right. So
I just want to flick it over my head towards him.
Right. So not throwing it like a frisbee. You're trying to throw
just with both hands.
Okay. Excellent. In that case, just a basic ranged attack. So Dex mod plus half level, but it's going to be -3 because you're throwing it a weird shape to throw, and you're throwing it in a weird way. And you're sprinting, so then an additional -5 to your attacks.
Yeah, that's a fail.
Yeah. All right. So your shield kind of catches a bit of weird wind and frisbees off and smashes into a punch bowl, which then cascades a bright yellow fruity punch all over the table, soaking the other various foodstuffs that are on it.
I'll run to get my shield.
All right.
Like change course towards wherever my shield went. The guy can take off.
He's going to get a little bit more distance away from you, but you shouldn't lose him completely. All right. After Murgatroyd is Hatim. He's at you. The guy that you're fighting with, he's there. All right. Hatim drives a punch into the gut for the soldier whose nose he already broke. I didn't see a number. What did you roll? Oh, yeah. Basic melee attack, please. So it's just strength mod plus half level. Yeah. 14 is not enough. So you kind of like slam into this guy's guts, but in a weird kind of punch, he rolls with the blow. So you make contact, but not enough to hurt him. Would you like to do anything else? Yes, you can try and intimidate. Just out of curiosity, what did you say? Or are you just trying to be physically intimidating? So Tim says in his a thickly accented Anurian, "Don't make me get serious," as he's going to punch this guy in the guts. Because you're heroes in a den of villains, that's why nobody's listening to you. These are all dirty, nasty soldiers who follow bastards. That's why. There are people that are listening to you, but they're, you're not in a good place, right?
Alright, I thought they were all like mostly regular folk with like one bad guy, so.
No, other way around. Mostly bad guys with just a couple regular folk at this particular party.
Perfect.
After Hatim is their turn. So the guy that you just punched, Hatim, he's going to, because you tried to do a body blow, that means you have to close in a little bit. He's going to try and nut you. So he goes to headbutt you, but I rolled a critical fail. So he, with his swollen eye, he misjudges and headbutts you too high, driving his already very badly damaged broken nose into the crown of your head, which causes it to crunch even more. You hear him kind of gasp and drops to his knees, clutching his face. Nutsack is going to try and break free, so contest of strength. No, it's not. Right, to escape a grab. I forget. It's like athletics versus your fortitude. So he's going to try and athletics against your fortitude to break free of this grab. He failed, so you maintain the full Nelson hold you have on him, although you can feel his very, very powerful muscles moving around under his skin. You just have really great leverage, and due to his wounds and his current state of berserk, he is not thinking clearly, and trying to muscle his way out of the situation failed. The other orc, however, steps forward and is going to try and punch Arwen. 20 versus your AC, Arwen.
Miss.
All right. Your newfound dance training comes in handy once again, and you duck underneath the big, meaty green fist of this orc, which disturbs the air above you, but doesn't make contact. All right. What's his name? Zelfer. Casts about, and he sees where Vince has teleported off to. He draws from the back of his belt the terrifying, evil-looking dagger, and saying something in his Sylvan tongue, which those of you who can speak Sylvan, which I think is just Arwen and Vince, understand, is a terrible curse. And Vince, you feel the effects of being cursed. Yeah, for the first time, the shoe is on the other foot. And then he is moving towards you to attack. I guess cursing is a minor action, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he will slash at you with this very nasty-looking dagger. 16 versus your AC, Vince.
Nope.
All right. He cuts through part of your robe as the curved blade kind of swicks. It's much sharper than the knife actually looks, but it doesn't injure you. And the guy that Murgatroyd is chasing, the guy you guys just know as Barakt, the nasty soldier, gains a little bit of headway. He kind of looks over his shoulder as Murgatroyd deviates to the thing, and he gets a little smirk on his face as he cuts a hard right and disappears behind a building that you're not sure what it is, Murgatroyd, but it has a lot of light kind of pouring through a glassed ceiling. Jack, your turn.
I'm going to continue trying to subdue Nutsack. If I can, make him pass out from whatever headlock I've got him in.
You've got him in a full Nelson, but I have there's additional rules for grappling, so that you have several options. You can do just like it's listed as a bear hug, which just means you apply more pressure, in the attack. And you'll do damage equal to your strength modifier, and you can choose that to make it non-lethal damage, which means, if you reduce him to 0 doing non-lethal damage, he just passes out. Or you can change, if you make a successful alteration roll here, it's easy. Strength versus his fortitude again. You can change it into a chokehold and actually begin to choke him out.
I'll go with the first option.
All right.
And while I'm tightening up my grip, I'm going to try somewhat reasoning with him.
What is your strength modifier?
My strength modifier is 5, and half level makes it 8.
No, just the strength mod, no half level.
Just 5 then.
Just 5. All right. Wow. You do 5 points of damage. You hear like cartilage crunch as you apply more pressure in the full Nelson. You can hear like his shoulders pop as though, a little bit more force and you could dislocate his arms. You can try a diplomacy roll, but I guess you can try it. Try reasoning with him.
Okay.
What do you say, just out of curiosity?
This is not the time to fight. This is a time to bide your time.
Oh, man. Damn, that's some good diplomatizing. He pauses, and he says back to you in common, already distorted by his orcish upbringing and further distorted by the pain and rage that he's in. I die if I don't fight. I fight, and I may still die. I would rather go down swinging than at the hands of these filthy tree creatures. He says, and I'm afraid you will die too, for showing me any kindness at all. Your generous spirit, the one Jack, will be your undoing. You cannot save me, and you cannot save yourself.
I seek not to save, but to spare for a good death.
He says, this is a good death! And he strains to break free from you.
He will fail to break free.
Yeah, he already failed. I guess on his next turn he's going to try and break free from you again, but because he failed on his last check, he doesn't get a chance.
Yeah, I'm basically done my turn.
Excellent. Arwen, your turn.
All right, so I was defending Jack. Has anyone...
No, the orc that was attacking
Advanced?
Jack has changed, and he's attacking you. So he's like within melee range of you.
This is a prisoner orc.
Yes.
Can I attempt to restrain him?
Yes, you can try and do a grapple. It's strength versus his fortitude. So just the button beside your strength again, strength mod plus half level, I believe was a 5. If you click that, there it is. 14, and his fortitude is much higher than that. So you attempt to get a grapple onto him. You're supposed to have both hands free to do a grapple anyway, but I'll say you're using your bow as a little bit of like a billy club, trying to use it across his neck to restrain him. But he's too big and brawny and beefy, and he shrugs you off.
Can I do a run and launch like through his legs and come out behind him and maybe knock him down?
The grapple was a standard action, but you can use your move action to dance around him if you like. And we'll say that we're not using a battle map, so you're technically doing like a shift maneuver to get around him. So that's fine with me. So after he shrugged you off, you fell to his side and you did your 5-foot step shift maneuver. Now you're directly behind him. As soon as you're out of his immediate line of sight, he refocuses his attention to Jack.
Do I have anything left to do?
You can use an action point if you want to attack him right now, or you can wait till your next turn.
Action points are by encounter?
Action points are by day, but you get bonus ones per encounter. So you have 1 action point right now.
I've never used one before, so I would like to do that.
All right. So you now have another action. You can use it to do you can use it to do a standard, a move, or a minor.
All right, so I'm right behind this orc guy. Again, I don't mind hurting him, but I don't want to kill him. Can I do some kind of kick takedown?
Yes, you can attempt to trip him. That's fine with me. In which case you do a basic melee attack, which will be that same strength roll again, because you're just doing a strength mod plus half level, because you're untrained in... So unfortunately, 10 is not enough. So you kick out at his ankles, but your kick is too high, and you catch him in the calf muscle instead of lower down where you could use his body weight against him to trip. Had you been a monk and trained in unarmed fighting, it would have been a little bit easier to do a trip maneuver. I should mention, if you have an at-will encounter or daily that has the trip function, you can use that instead, but I don't think you do.
No, I don't think I do either, but at least I was behind him, so...
Yeah. No, but you rolled a 10, unfortunately, which is just a little... It's too low. Too low. He's a big boy.
Yeah, but he might not realize it was me, so I might be okay later.
Fair enough. All right, Vince, back to you.
What kind of role would it take? What kind of check to intimidate the entire room?
It would be intimidate, and it would be really high unless you're going to do something. If you've got something up your sleeve that you can pull off here, some kind of show of great strength to give yourself bonuses. Right now, it's just kind of like a crazy melee brawl. So
Okay.
how are you going to get everyone's attention first off, and then how would you like to try and intimidate them?
I'll, in a very flashy manner, whip out the trident.
That'll do it.
I'll curse the guy that cursed me. I'll scream at the top of my lungs, and I'll slam it down and do an intimidate.
All right, a cocaine rage-fueled Vince tears the straw wadding that he put around the trident, which here in the torchlight and the blood and the strange fey is glowing faintly, and you bellow a rage that is half Vince's voice and half Kshatri's voice coming through in the harmonies on the scream. You slam the trident down, which smashes all the stones in your burst one area all around you. And I'm going to say that you have unlocked a new ability in this trident, which is to give you a bonus 10 on an intimidate roll.
Can I use it now?
You sure can.
Oh, good.
Excellent. Yes, everyone just kind of stops, and they're all staring at you. Some with shock and awe, others with like the orcs with fear and terror. They recognize that symbol and what it represents. Yeah. What's his name? Zelfer. He kind of licks his lips, as he stares at the trident, and his eyes narrow. And, it's just like, I see, right? He kind of nods at you knowingly, and it gives you we'll deal with this later kind of look as he takes half a step backwards. I'm going to say everyone that's not actively engaged in the combat took a full step backwards as it kind of cleared the circle away from everyone here. Yeah, Nutsack kind of went limp when Vince did that, too.
Yeah, I'll just be like, I don't know. Get everybody to stop fighting.
Everybody has stopped fighting. Murgatroyd, yeah, you missed it. Murgatroyd, you come running around the back of the building in the direction that the soldier Barak had fled to, and it's leads down between several other buildings, back buildings in this guy's estate. And you catch him at the end of the kind of alleyway, looks back as though he's just making sure that you are actually following him, and ducks around the corner to the left. That's fine, Crystal. We're actually, I'm just going to finish up with Murgatroyd here, and then we'll come back and pick it up at this moment.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be like, fuck it, turn around and go see what the commotion is.
You let him go? Okay.
No, get my dagger back! Get my dagger back!
Oh, Jake just showed up.
Peace out, guys. Have a good one.
Later.
Yep, you too.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give up and be like, in disbelief that Vince did anything productive.
Yeah, you hear that? You heard Vince's voice and Kshatri's voice too, which still kind of haunts your nighttime affairs. But you turn around and find your way back to the party, just as you kind of push your way through the statue-like figures that are staring in wonderment at the crazy wild-eyed hair kind of standing out. You know what, as you're looking at him, Vince even looks a little bit like Kshatri, right? The eyes have kind of taken on that shape, and the way his hair is kind of it looks a little bit like the horns that Kshatri had, and his fingernails, they weren't always that long or claw-like. he looks like Kshatriy. He even has a faint aura of cocaine that kind of drifts down to the ground here at the end of this moment. And as Murgatroyd pushes his way through the circle in one direction, Elliot kind of pushes his way through the circle in the other direction, drawn by the commotion and the craziness. And that's what you see as well, Elliot. You see Vince standing in the middle of a circle of astonished elves, and Jack has Nutsack. No, you never met Nutsack. Has a large and terrible-looking ogre in a full Nelson. While
You did meet Nutsack.
You did.
He was with me.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
we
You met
met
Nutsack and fought Nutsack. So he has Nutsack in a full Nelson, and another orc is standing there with Arwen directly behind him. And Hatim is standing over an elf that is quietly barfing blood and snot onto the cobblestones. And Hatim is doing a whole come at me bro kind of stance to a group of a half dozen other elves that have weapons kind of half drawn but are frozen in shock at Vince's display of intimidation. And
Damn.
nobody's moving or saying anything. And I was going to end here, but if Jake just showed up, we can keep playing for another half hour or so.
Hey guys, what I missed?
Elliot breaks the silence.
What the fuck just happened?
Still
Murgatroyd?
doing crazy coke eyes at everyone.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, we initially were just kind of running around, drinking and being merry, going house to house in the elf village. Kind of like Newfoundland. What do they call them? Toasters or something?
Mummers, yeah.
Mummers, there you go. Partying it up, and then we saw maybe like a pit fighting situation with the captured orcs in a circle. I don't know if there was actually a legit pit or anything, but they're just people were betting on them and stuff. And then of course all our priestly characters wanted to go put the kibosh on that, and then Hatim jumped into the ring all slick like, and then started trying to intimidate them. But then we saw the guy that was the bookie was the dude that took your dagger.
Oh,
So like I was trying to chase his ass, and I threw my shield at him and missed, and then that's pretty much when he turned the corner and jetted. But he's an elf. I would never be able to catch him. My movement is slower.
yeah.
But like I was the only one trying to catch him.
Gotcha.
Arwen did shoot an arrow at him, but and Vince did try to teleport onto him, but all our attempts failed. But I'll point him out. I'll be like, "Oh, that dude fucking jetted in that alleyway to you."
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, what actually brought you to this house, Elliot, is that this is the house of Barakt.
Cool. All right. So wait, we're like in front of his house?
You're in the house. You actually had to go through the house itself in order to get to the backyard where all this commotion was taking place.
Oh man.
Well,
Alright.
I mean, he stole your dagger, so that pretty much means you're entitled to steal whatever's in his house, right?
Yeah, but has the party kind of disbanded, or is it just kind of like?
Well, you're kind of chatting quickly with Murgatroyd behind his hand as he catches you up, and the guy Zelfer, he kind of the dagger that he was holding disappears up his hands, and he just kind of raises his hands and shrugs, and he says, "Fine," he says, "they can be your problem. Take your pets and be gone." And he turns and kind of strides off towards the buffet. The other soldiers resheath their weapons, and they walk away from you, Hatim, but they're still giving you the eyes, Hatim. Like, you know, maybe one of them even holds up two fingers to his eyes and then points at you with them. The party kind of disbands as the people who were here enjoying the pit fighting are kind of moving apart. And also, if you guys are now in the company of two large beefy orcs, are going to let you pass through the house unmolested.
Wait, orcs are there are orcs there as well, not just captured ones, or they're
No,
like the captured
the
ones in
captured
the
orcs. These two orcs were essentially mendangoing,
Gotcha.
fighting each other for the pleasure of these elves, but you guys have created enough of a stir that they are releasing these two orcs into your custody.
Cool. Are they from Jack's tribe?
No. One of them is Nutsack, and the other one is just a big orc.
Nutsack wasn't the leader guy that
He was.
Yeah.
Right.
He was the guy who told you to prove that you were loyal by making you fight on the front lines, and you guys fought him in the tree line.
Oh, so he's probably not super happy to see us.
He wasn't at first, but Jack actually did some cure light woundsing on him, and was doing some pretty good diplomacy.
Full Nelson, yeah, diplomacy and full Nelsoning.
And you guys just saved their lives, so they're you can see the fatigue and they both look really brutalized too. Nutsack is missing an eye, and he's been pretty badly beaten up. Most of his teeth are smashed out. The other orc also has got some grievous wounds that are keeping him down. You can see that one of his arms is actually obviously broken, and he's got a wicked bad limp. A bunch of his toes are bent at weird angles. They just look really rough, but they limp after you quietly. Nutsack kind of giving you a look, Jack, like, this isn't over, but I appreciate what you've done for me and my kind here.
Yeah, I'm going to let him know that as soon as we are able to, we'll get him out of the Silewood, and at that point, he can go rejoin what is left of his tribe.
I think if I can butt in, like, I mean, these guys clearly need direction. Like, they got brutalized at the hands of the elves. Maybe if they all united under the one true Jack, then they might be led to glory and not to defeat.
So you guys are kind of talking about this as you're, half walking, half being escorted, out of the Baracked household. And yes.
Sorry, like, we're being escorted out by elves or by...
Yes, by the soldier elves. They're not actively forcing you to get out, but they are kind of walking behind you, not saying anything, and just watching you and being intimidating.
What's the over-under on me kind of ducking behind a vase? Or do we have too many eyes on us?
Yeah, you guys are pretty much the center of attention right now. Plus, there are many indentured gnomish servants kind of underfoot. So you're like getting ready to duck behind a vase, and you see that it's already occupied by a very whipped and downtrodden looking gnomish slave who kind of looks up at you but quickly looks away as though he didn't want to make eye contact.
Ooh, do they look like, are they kind of desperate looking? Any of them? Like, I assume some are beaten, but some might be hopeful.
No, none of them are hopeful. No, in all of the gnome slaves that you guys have come across, they are right. How does Pratchett put it? The whips are in their minds, right? Their masters don't need to physically beat them anymore. They know they're slaves. Their fathers were slaves. Their grandfathers were slaves. Their children will be slaves. They just know that that's the way it is. However, these particular slaves also look like they have been abused.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm making a note. So this house, I'm guessing it's like a massive kind of mansion, like castle, sort of like Thelonious Jargonew's house?
Yes, it is a massive mansion, and much unlike the standard elven architecture, which is wood and built in harmony with nature around, this place has stone structure in it too. This was part of your research and stuff, right? That the Baracked family is not well liked because of their, connections with those below, and they don't do things the way that people in the elven community would like, but they are very rich and very powerful. So there's not a lot that the people of the Selwood can do about it.
Guys, we gotta bring this family down to the ground.
You will get no argument from Arduin or myself.
Also, they stole my stuff.
Jack's stuff, too.
And they're in league with the...
They have my axe.
Yeah, and they're in league with the... Do you guys know about them being in league with the Dark Ones, the Drow?
What?
Yeah, they're like super evil, these guys. I did some research. Yeah, they're in league with Santa. I did some research on these guys, and we'd be helping out the elven community a whole huggy bunch by exposing their corruption, and someone suggested we kill them. But I'm not super down with that. No, I'm racist against people who steal from me and brutally assault their slaves and set up Mandingo rings and
I was referring to the drow part.
Oh, well, everybody kind of hates the drow.
The drow is unfamiliar to you, Jack. You have no idea what he's talking about when he talks about the drow.
I was joking, and that was out of character.
That's fine too. But likewise, in character, you know, elves are almost unheard of where you're from, let alone these dark elves.
I know elves have pointy ears.
Right. Yeah.
And one's good with a bow.
And they're by and large pretty racist and intolerant and mean. So if there's elves that other elves don't like, they must be real bastards.
See, there's two types of elves. The drow always wants credit for something they're supposed to do.
Classic.
What, you want, a cookie? Okay.
An elf cookie?
Okay, well, so this kind of labyrinthine place, or is it, I'm kind of, as we're going in, I'm trying to scope it out, like I'm gonna come back and burglarize the crap out of it. Does it have the high ceilings to climb up, and does it have multiple staircases and windows and points of egress and stone walls I could climb?
Absolutely, yeah, it has all that. And in fact, the party is still going. So once you guys are kind of led to the front gates, most of the soldiers disband, but it would be very easy for Elliot, a very simple DC stealth check to kind of blend in with another group of partygoers and find your way back into the estate.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, what say we plan this thing out, gang? Oh, wait, do we know how long we have on the, did we find any more cards?
I don't think so. Not since the ones you got from killing Crixus, or dispatching Crixus, sorry.
I bet this guy has them. Do we have the power to scan for them like we did with the rods?
No. That has not been discovered yet. You have had some... Okay, thanks for coming out, Mitch. And we'll just say that you are getting coked up and enjoying the rest of the party.
Excellent.
Yes, you can. Anyone who's trained in Arcana can do an Arcana check, open up their third eye kind of thing, and sense around for any points of high, powerful magic.
I'm not going to be able to join them on this, since I assume I'm going to have to kind of keep an eye on the orcs until we do leave the Silewood. Make sure that they're somewhat contained, but still taken care of.
Okay. What are you going to do with the orcs?
I think I'm going to have to go back to Arwen's family's estate and request that we stay in... if they have a room without a window, just one door, I will ask if I can keep them there until we go to leave, or the stables, if the stables are completely closed, and not just, half wooden stables.
Okay.
Could they just stay in the cart with Sublime?
Well, hang on. We'll get so before I think Mitch is gone already, but before Vince gets swept up by a bunch of attractive elven ladies, he kind of points back to the house and he's like, "There is some magic coming from there," and he points back to the Baraked household. If you trust Sublime, if you ask the orcs, they want to leave right now. They want to get the hell out of this city. They want to get the hell out of these woods as fast as possible. They don't want to stick around for any amount of time.
That makes sense. I'd have to arrange an escort to do that, though. I assume.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be able to find my way out on my own.
There is a road now that you're here in the Silewood, but you would be following the main road, and it would only lead you to, the four, like, from Llyandre, there's the main roads that go north, south, east, and west, right? So you could follow the southern road to the bottom of the Silewood, but it would take a while to get there. And the most northerly road is the one you guys just traveled on coming back from Fort Richard. and then there's one that's much shorter going to the east, which leads to the mountains, which is the direction that they would like to go anyway. Yeah, they're fine with that. They said, you have done more than enough, and if you just get us out of this accursed city to the east, we will make our own way.
How many days travel is it to go the shortest route to the east?
Just a second, let me grab my map. I forgot I have it in a window here. It used to be on the wall, but I built that nice new shelf, and it covers it up. I'm going to drop you guys in this map, too. So yeah, to get to the east, it is like maybe 3 days walking to get to the edge of the Salwood, and then from there it's like very close to the mountains. It's right here, and these mountains, this mountain chain here is lots of orcs. So the dwarves that live there are very sturdy dwarves who have kind of dedicated themselves to keeping the orcs below ground, but because these mountains along this chain here are a hotbed of orc activity, this is where most of the orcs come from, is this mountain chain. That's where Nutsack is from.
Okay. So, what, 1-2 days to get to the edge of the Silewood this way?
No, 3 days. 3 days from
3 days.
Llyandre to the edge of the Salwood, and then another 2 or 3, days will get him gone into the mountains and disappeared forever.
Well,
But
I
he
only
says-
need to get him to the edge of the woods.
Yeah.
And I will...
He says you don't even do that. You just have to get him out of this city. Just see me safely to the woods, and we can make it the rest of the way.
I don't want to do that because there's still elves, obviously, patrolling the woods, and for all I know, he could, just start, raiding the Solidwood, just one-man band by himself. So I don't quite trust him yet. And I don't trust the elves either.
Okay. If you mention the elves, he says, well, then arm me. Give me a weapon, and we'll be fine. He says, we will make our way to the mountains directly. He says, I do not want to spend any more time than I have to in this disgusting place.
So, I'm going to kind of ignore him, and I'm going to see if I can borrow a couple guards, soldiers to escort him.
With you or without you?
With me.
Okay, with you, then that's much easier. Yes, you find some soldiers who were fighting in the northern ranks who recognize you and who want to help repay the favor, and they're willing to do the entire thing for 10 gold each.
I'm not sure if I personally have 10 gold. Hold on.
I do.
So there's
Okay.
4 of them, so it's actually going to be 40 gold to hire these 4 escorts.
I can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's what we will do.
And are you going to leave right now, Jack?
Yeah, we're gonna make it quick so these guys don't have to wait any longer and less tensions all around. So yeah, right away.
All right. Jack and his band leave right now during the party, and you will be back in 10 to 12 days.
Okay.
Is anyone else going to go with Jack?
No,
All right.
Yep.
you don't want to be here for the detective / raid on this elven family.
No. Although I don't like them, I have prior commitments, so to speak.
Gotcha.
Also, while I am traveling, I'm going to continue trying to learn how to learn the language of the elves.
All right. The soldiers that you're with can help you out a little bit. Nutsack just kind of snarls and is disgusted at why you would want to learn more about these creatures.
Understandable.
And to which the elves respond to, disgusted as to why you would want to spend any more time than you need to with these, they're essentially animals.
Many of elves think I am animal. Just kind of remind them.
You get one of those, oh yeah, kind of nods from the guy.
That makes sense.
But anyways, we will go off, and I think that's it for me tonight.
Okay.
should I put like 1-2 extra hours for the learning or no?
I guess you're walking the whole way, but it's not real instructed because it's not from a teacher, right? You're just
Yeah.
trying to learn from some soldiers who don't really know how to teach well. So
That's why I said like 1 or 2.
Well, it's 12 days, and you can have put down another 12, so you get an hour of good study per day,
Okay.
right? Assuming that you're trying to talk with them in Salwood Elven as much as you can.
Yeah, try to pick up a working knowledge of the language.
Yeah, right. They like point things out, like this is how you say boots, right? And you try and work your tongue around it. There's lots of L's and Y's in the Elven language.
Not so many oohs.
No, there's M's, but not a lot of O's.
All right. I'm done for the night.
Okay, thanks for coming out, Josh.
Good night, team.
All right, yeah, thanks for coming out, Seth. So we're just down to Jake and Jay, and I know, we still got a little bit of time, so we can talk a little bit about the House of Baracht here.
Cool. I know I showed up late. It was a gamble. I was gonna get here in time. We got out early, and so I raced home to see if you were up.
All right, so everyone kind of disperses into their various activities in the party, and Murgatroyd and Elliot find themselves standing just outside the gates of the Baracht house as a troop of elves wearing silver masks that all have sad, weeping faces kind of stumble and weave their way past them and into the front gates.
Have we seen those guys before?
No, but you're in a general party situation, so there's lots of people wearing masks.
Are they about my? Could we steal their uniforms and put one on Murgatroyd for added hilarity?
One of they're around your size, a little bit more slender than you, Elliot. But I guess what's your strength and constitution?
My strength and constitution are 10 and 13.
Oh, actually, no, you're pretty close body size
Yeah.
to these guys. However, Murgatroyd is not.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I need
but
2 masks for my face.
they're probably also they're silver, right? They're clattery, or are they elven super stealth armor?
Huh? No, it's just the mask that's silver.
Oh, I see. But the rest of their clothes are just regular?
Yeah, they're party clothes.
Gotcha. Are there more coming this way, or is it just sort of that group?
No, I was just trying to be colorful and describe some interesting-looking partygoers.
Oh, yeah, no, I just want to, make a note of it. Maybe take advantage of it later if I need to blend in further.
Sure.
Okay, well, all right, Murgatroyd. Do you remember when we sort of did a stealth operation at that windmill place?
Yeah.
You remember how badly it went?
That wasn't the blackface incident, was it?
No, that was a different one. That was the one where I broke off from you while you were on that tour, and then I set off a bunch of security alarms, and we essentially got booted out of that town.
Oh, right.
All right, well,
So
let's
diversion, and then you just went rampant.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Something tells me that this guy's house is gonna have similar sort of traps, but I don't know. I really want to. I mean, it would be pretty great
Since they're having the party here, maybe we can do some recon before any raiding.
Yeah. I'm also wondering, maybe we, go find Commissioner Gordon and tell him that I guess we should have some intel or some proof or something on the Baracht guy. So maybe we do that now. We use the party to kind of, get whatever recon we can. Maybe I'll go, I'll sneak around and you can.
Well, he's having a party there, so can't we just go back in? And
Oh,
just
yeah.
look around.
I just mean let's have some kind of plan for meeting back up.
Oh, right.
You
Not
guys
like last
are
time.
famous too, for the record.
Sorry?
You guys are famous.
Yeah, I know. So
You will be recognized.
Yeah, so I'd want to discuss.
especially Murgatroyd. It's like the only dwarf in, 7,000 years. Murgatroyd and that other dwarven general are the only dwarves to set foot in the Sawwood.
What's the distance between the houses? Is this like, does it have its own plot, or are there like houses on either side of this place?
This house is a little bit further removed. The original party was drawn here because they just followed the tide, and there seemed to be a really uproarious kind of event going on here, which they found out to be the fights to the death between the Orcish prisoners. But yeah, this house is a little bit out of town, a little bit out of the way, and there are, it's more private. So there's like a tangled of forest grown up on either side, and this estate is walled, whereas every other estate in the entire city of Llyandre is open. There's no walls between things. The elves move freely, and it's mostly like wood and natural structures, and very much like in harmony with nature. This is the only place that has like a stone wall and stone construction.
Gotcha.
And it's dark stone too, very, very black stone, which Murgatroyd, you recognize as being stone that comes from deep down.
How did the elves get it?
You're not sure how the elves got it, but it's like Duragar stone.
It's like the evil dwarfs.
Yeah.
Probably friends with the evil elves.
Oh man.
Well, while you're thinking about it, Murgatroyd, you're like, the only thing that ever brought the Five Peaks elves and the Duragar elves together was keeping the Drow down. The Drow are so hated that it's the only thing that will bring rival clans of dwarves together to stop.
Dang. Okay. Well, what say we kind of sneak back into the party and do some recon, and do we have any way of communicating with each other, or should we just kind of set a time? Is there like a clock tower in this town, or do they have like people announcing 9 o'clock, or should we just kind of count?
Sing a song like Hudson Hawk.
Oh, that's such a great idea. Murgatroyd, do we have any songs that we have sung while we're on the road?
Most dwarven songs are about defeating invading humans.
I love it. I think I've sung 1 or 2 of them with you. Let's what do you like? Slay the Human in D minor?
Sounds good.
All right, let's do it. Okay. So I'll based on my kind of trip through the house, I imagine Elliot would have kind of a plan for heading up to whatever master bedroom, and maybe based on his years of burglarizing, he'd have a better idea than Jake as to where valuables would actually be kept.
It's true. Just walking into the place, you can see that there are valuables, right? So you're like, oh, that's a very expensive looking candelabra sitting over there on that table. All the flatware in here is silver, and the china is very expensive. Right there on the end of that bookshelf is a very ornamental kind of clockwork globe thing. That's pretty expensive looking, right? And then you're just like, oh wow, even some of these books, like are bound in leather. Here's gold leaf on the books. That's got to be expensive. But you're thinking that like actual hard currency and things of extreme value are probably kept in a safe somewhere.
Yeah, safe somewhere. Okay, so this Barak guy, he's really into his power. Did he dress not flamboyantly, but did he dress to impress? Like, is he a kind of vain, sort of self-important guy? Or is he kind of a strict military-looking dress?
When you first saw him before, he was in his armor, but if you ask this question to Murgatroyd can tell you that yes, he was dressed in very fine clothes this evening.
Okay. He's pretty... I'd say he's overconfident, but because he knew he could get away with committing a war crime, but he wasn't above killing a defenseless tied opponent. So this guy is going to keep his valuables protected, but I think he's going to want them to be around him. I think. I'm going to say that his shit is kept in a safe, like, in his closet. So that's where I'm gonna try and find his, like, bedroom.
All right. Murgatroyd.
I'll walk around knocking shit over.
Okay. And at the end of the song, we get out, and if we hear a commotion, then get out, try not to be recognized, then we'll meet back at the wagon.
I'll try not to get recognized.
I'm gonna
only dwarf in the city.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna pull my shirt up over my nose and conceal my ears if I can. Like, put my hood up and pull my shirt up to my nose, sort of situation.
Okay. You're gonna Assassin's Creed your look up.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, you skip up the stairs, and you can see that there's party goers still milling around the house. So there's like a group of people lounging on the furniture in the main room, and a couple of them sitting on the stairs discussing things, all in this Sylvan Masal tongue. I forget. Do you speak Elvish?
I speak Sylvan Elven.
Oh, excellent. So that's the Salwood tongue. So yeah, you overhear them discussing just something, about politics or whatever, right? The guy is obviously trying to impress the female.
Yeah.
And there's, some other party goers descending the stairs, kind of arm in arm, laughing. And but the carpet on the stairs is thick and plush and dark red. So you're able to soundlessly kind of skip your way up. And you see standing at the very top of the stairs, holding like a silver tray that has empty cups on it, is a gnome who avoids making direct eye contact with you and doesn't say anything as you mount the stairs. Murgatroyd, you kind of move about the main area, kind of blundering into elves and knocking stuff over. As you knock things over, gnomes immediately, appear almost out of nowhere to grab them before they can hit the ground. And then they apologize to you and begin kind of tidying up behind you. Even you notice that a gnome has appeared with a little dustpan and broom and is sweeping up the muddy footprints that you're leaving behind.
I'm going to try to get as many gnome attention as I can, and then start trying to get, I guess just talking in common about starting a gnome fighting pit, since we didn't get to see the orcs fight, we could maybe at least see the gnomes fight.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's like...
Mostly just trying to keep all the gnomes, just going to keep them entertained, or at least paying attention to me. Either if they're taken off, I'll knock more shit over.
The gnomes are definitely terrified. You can see, when you start talking about forcing the gnomes to fight, one starts to get a little knock-kneed and a little tremor in his hands, and that's when you can see, like, the back of this gnome's hands are covered in scars, and this one's got, like, some chunks taken out of his ear. You look over at one of the other gnomes who's got, obviously, like, a cloudy eye, so, has had, like, a detached retina or something that never got properly healed, as if, a gnome fighting ring is not unheard of in this house. Some of the elves are, they're excited about this thing. They, obviously didn't get enough of their gambling out. They're mostly gibbering in the Sylvan tongue that you don't understand. And only one or two of them kind of speak Anurian and are translating. And, they say back to you, hey, aren't you one of the Rod Stewards, fighting in the north? You seriously want to get a gnome fighting ring? We thought you all were goody two-shoes.
It's like, well, some of us are, but they left. I'll be like, yeah, obviously I'm the Rod Stewards because I'm a dwarf and still alive.
Yeah, they proffer for you some powerful elven liquor that is closer to absinthe than than anything you've tasted so far, with the wormwood in it. So you're like, woo, all right. But you definitely have the attention of several people in the room, including you kind of spy one guy who's over by the fireplace, who you recognize as one of the southern soldiers. Right? He's wearing like the belt or something with his sword hanging from it. So he was by the pit, and he's curious as to what's going on over here. Why you came back after everyone was kind of marched off. All right, Elliot, you find yourself on the upper landing. There's lots of doors leading off in various directions, and the hallway up here kind of curves around the mezzanine, and there's doors that lead off of it. Right at kind of the apex of the curve is a big set of double doors, which is open wide, and you can hear some other partygoers down there kind of talking loudly, and you can smell kind of fresh air coming from that direction as well, and hear the sounds of the outside party.
And you said I'm alone on this landing with a gnome waiter?
Yeah.
Can I hear obvious noises in any of the rooms that are nearby me? If I like grab this guy and pull him into a room, can I guess at which one would be unoccupied?
The first door seems quiet, so does the second door. The third door, however, you can hear the sounds of noisy lovemaking coming from behind it.
Goodness. Okay, then maybe I don't need to grab him. I'm going to kneel down to his level, make eye contact, and ask him which one is Barakt's room.
He looks away and he doesn't respond. He says, "I'm terribly sorry, sir, but I'm afraid I cannot help you with that request. I do wish to help you with other requests, though. Please ask me of anything else."
I'm gonna try.
The master's chambers are off limits.
I'm gonna try a diplomacy and say, I want to help you, and if they're talking about gnome fighting down there, I'm gonna try and gesture to that. If I can hear that at all.
Yeah,
Murgatroyd's
not being subtle.
Yeah, I'd like to gesture to that and say, I want to help you. Where's the where is the master's room? And I'm going to use my mob mentality to boost my charisma.
Okay.
Do you want me to do a diplomacy roll, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
So that's 23.
Excellent. He never makes eye contact. You try and move your face to look at his face. His eyes are always cast down. He will not meet your eyes. And he says, "If you truly want to help me, then you would just leave me alone, and please do not do anything that you might be thinking of doing." He says, "Do you know who will be blamed if something goes missing at this party tonight?"
Right. So let me help you. Let me help you get out from under this. Is there anything you can tell me that I can bring to the authorities? We intend to end the reign of Barakt.
He looks very nervous and kind of fiddles around with a few of the empty glasses on his drink tray, and he says, I shouldn't. He says, "The store. Check out the store. The black cloak. I have to go." And you see another gnome coming up the stairs with a tray full of full drinks. And this guy goes down, and the guy with the tray full of full drinks comes up and stands at the top of the stairs. And then you hear the sounds of some elves coming from the hallway that leads to the landing outside the balcony, kind of heading in this direction. The gnome looks up at I guess, in your direction, and looks at your chest and holds out the tray of drinks, and he says, "Drink, sir?"
I'll take one. If I can use my nimble fingers feat to add a super quick thievery check as the one who helped me leaves, I'm gonna make like I just put a drink on his tray and pass him a tip.
Okay.
And then say, "Get out of here." And I'd like to pass him, if I can, one of my gems. If that's not going to be too obvious, I'll just give him some gold. I'll pass him 5 gold.
Okay.
And and I'll take one of the drinks and nod and say, "Lovely house here." Walk around admiring the art.
Excellent. Okay, Murgatroyd, yeah, you're doing that. We're not going to play for much longer anyway. It's getting late for me too. But I definitely want to see where Elliot's going to go here.
Sounds good. Take care, guys.
Okay, thanks for coming out, Jay.
Yeah, okay, cool. Then, and you said the big double doors lead to the like a different balcony landing?
It seems that way. Yeah, you can smell the sounds, smell the smells of outside, and hear the sounds of the party outside. So either it leads to a place with lots of windows that are open to the outside, or to another large balcony that leads outside.
Okay, gonna go wander over and check that out and count the number of doors on either side and try and assess whether they're all bedrooms or one might be a larder or something.
It's tough to say. There's 5 doors on this side and 6 doors on the other side. They are all closed and they are all very similar.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the only one that kind of stands out is like the furthest one all the way along the other side, and it is the only one that does not have a lock on it.
Ooh. If there's no one around, I'm gonna scoot up to that one and give it a listen.
Okay, it's quiet.
Okay, gonna slowly open it.
All right, there are people around, but nobody's really paying you attention, right? There's
okay.
Mad party
yeah.
going on. You open the door into a linens closet.
Okay. Gonna keep track of what door that is. Close it behind me and head through those large double doors.
All right, the large double doors lead to another very plushly carpeted thing, and you kind of cast your eyes down the statuary here, and like, oh, that bust, that's expensive. You know, like that looks like rare kind of stone to me, and the artistry is good. And you're looking at some of the artwork on the wall, and like those paintings probably expensive. The frames alone is like that frame is gilt. That's probably real gold in the frame, and right, you just kind of scoping the place out as you're walking along, and these people are obviously rich and old money rich. And there's a few other doors here. Like I say, that one is open, leading to what looks like some kind of study where there's a group of elves in there all smoking and talking about stuff. I guess they're looking at a map, and one of the elves is pointing at various things on the map and talking about how the last time he was in the something or the southern forests, something blah blah blah. And you follow it to the end, and there is large glass-paned doors here that lead out onto a big stone balcony that overlooks the backyard, where you look down into now, and you can see that they're getting the circle back together, and it looks like they're dragging out some of the other orc slaves to make them fight again for money and amusement.
Okay.
Which means that barking the orders and stuff is one of the elves that was kind of in the mix, fighting with your friends, and standing next to him is Barakt.
Oh man,
the soldier, who now has like a bit of a bandage over one shoulder where he was injured, but you can see he's flexing his arm as though the wound is not as bad as he originally thought. And then he kind of turns and laughs it off to a person next to him and starts taking bets as two orcs are drug out from captivity with they got the man catchers around their necks and wrists and forced into the circle, and you can hear the chants of fight, fight, fight start up.
Gonna watch him for a couple of minutes, trying to do he doesn't have the dagger hanging from his belt or anything.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah,
he's just kind of a bit of a bookie, bit of master of ceremonies here as he's going around, taking bets, and lots of money's changing hands. You watch these, you stand there for the length of time it takes for this fight to happen, where these orcs are forced to beat each other to death for the amusement of the crowd. Until it comes down to, one of them is unconscious on the ground, and they essentially force the other one at crossbow point to kill the unconscious orc. And then the one that did the killing, they drag him back off towards the a back building there that you can't really see what's going on. And then there's some cheering and general talking and some wine changing hands, and then the cheer starts up again, and 2 other orcs are drug out from the captivity and pulled towards the circle.
Oh man, these guys are so evil. All right. Okay. So, yeah, my guess is my shit is at the Black Cloak, and there's gonna be ledgers and whatnot there that are gonna help me out. I'm gonna move back to the bedroom. Outside of this balcony, I'm guessing there are windows into all the bedrooms across the way.
Yep.
Am I on the top floor, or are there more floors above me?
No, you're on the top floor. There is a tower, but it's just like a bit of a tower. It's only two stories higher, and it is near one of the front kind of wings. This whole building is shaped a bit like a horseshoe.
Gotcha.
So here at the back, it's mostly the top floor.
I'm not supposed to be seeing this, right?
Seeing what?
I'm on the world map. That's where you want me to be.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I didn't draw this place.
No, you've done other impressive things. I didn't know if you pulled up something like this. The tower doesn't look like a bedroom, does it?
No.
Okay.
The tower looks like you can see the top floor of the tower it's illuminated, and it's all windows kind of open. You can see people up there partying and carrying on. But it looks more like some type of fancy observation place than a bedroom.
Okay. I'm gonna go back, try one of the lockpick one of the doors. Actually, I'll open the linens closet. Is there anything in there that would be silky and expensive?
Yes, there are. There's some very expensive looking sheets and very fluffy looking towels.
But no silky handkerchiefs or whatnot. Okay.
No, not that kind of linens. It's
like a proper linens closet.
Yeah. Sheets and pillowcases and towels.
Okay. Oh man, this is killing me. Yeah, I think I'll try one of the doors that are where I either previously or still hear sounds of vigorous lovemaking.
All right. So there were, I lost track. I think there's 8 doors left on the front.
Yeah.
Hallway that are unexplored, because the linen closet is the 9th one.
Yeah.
And then down the long hallway there was 4 doors on each side.
Oh yeah. Okay. And I can't tell if they're all...
Less. 4 doors in total. So 2 doors on one side is like the study door, which is open, and then another locked door, and on the other side opposite it was 2 more doors.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't really... I don't know what I'm after here. I guess I don't really need to steal anything right now. I think what I'm after is evidence of dealings with the drow, but I have no idea what that would look like. I think I'm just gonna walk through the house and kind of mentally, get a feel for windows, for take a quick peek in like doors, so I can kind of build a rough idea of the house for if we do a proper break B&E, especially since we're wrapping it up here tonight.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, you're able to cast about and get but most of the doors on the upstairs landing here are locked, and there's lots of people around, so you get away with a lot, but not actively trying to pick a lock during the party. I'm going to say that 2 of them are unlocked. One that's directly behind the study, and it opens into a very large and opulent-looking bedroom, which has both signs of male and female inhabitants in it. Excuse me, as well as a gnome who kind of looks up in surprise to see you, as the gnome is making the bed or doing some kind of service in here.
I was like, oh, sorry.
And the other one that you open up is into a smaller bedroom. I can say it was the one where you were hearing the sounds of vigorous lovemaking, and the bed here is all completely untended now and disheveled, but the room is now vacant.
Gotcha.
But it looks less furbished and more like a guest room.
So a lot of people live here, including the servants.
The servants don't live in the house proper. You guys have been to multiple elven homes in the neighborhood, and the servants live in a different building, and then the slaves live in a different building that's off the back of kind of the servants' quarters. So it would just be like the main family, the Baroque family that lives here in this house, which is mother, father, 2 brothers, and a sister. And I guess in all of your research of them, you would have discovered their names since you got back here, right? Because these guys had 3 days to do stuff. So in that time, you were probably researching the Baroque family.
Yeah.
So the oldest brother is named Zelfar, or Zelfer. The brother who you know, the soldier brother, his name is actually Asylum. And let's grab a quick female name for... oh, wow, that name is so good. I got to use that one. Let's figure out how we pronounce this. Gilsera, yeah. Gilsera. Gilsera is the youngest, the daughter of this family, and she is known around as being just a stone-cold bitch brat. Absolute spoiled. Straight up Jersey Shore kind of action.
Spoiled, like, is she just as cruel as, is the older brother just as cruel as the younger, and is she as cruel as the younger brother?
Yeah, she's also quite cruel. The whole family is very cruel, but she is, she'll... whereas the brothers are just kind of bully and mean, she will tear people down on the street for just looking at her wrong kind of thing. I guess because she's the youngest, she feels like she has to prove her cruelty, so she acts extra cruel and mean just to kind of keep up with her brothers and her mother and father.
In that time of my research, is there like a police constabulary here?
Yes, there is.
Would I have gotten a read on any of the police officials? Like, is there like a corrupt commissioner or like a lieutenant who wants to clean up the streets, or is that outside of my what I would know?
The general vibe you get is that the aristocracy here kind of calls the shots because the police force is not so much taxed and paid for by the people. The police force is more privatized and paid for by the aristocracy to help keep quote unquote keep the peace, right? So they're more like a PMC than an actual guards or police force.
Gotcha.
Make a streetwise check for me, please. I suppose you had 3 days, so yeah, 20 is good enough. You can take 10. You were able to find, one guy who is like, he's dismayed. He joined up to make a difference, but it's just so corrupt, and the rich elves just buy what they want, and they kind of call the shots, and it's kind of the way it's always been and the way it's always will be. It's like a monarchy here, only with lots of kings. And the kings all kind of squabble and infight and backstab against each other.
Awesome. Did I meet him face to face? Like, did I kind of meet him in a bar sort of situation over some drinks?
Yeah, sure. Here, we'll give him a name. I have the Elven name generator open, so we'll just grab a quick name for this guy. Sorry, I have to change all the I's to Y's and double up on every L because that's how my Elven language works. So yeah, his name is Ruth.
Larry's. Cool. Do I know where he lives or where his office is?
Yeah, you know how to get a hold of him, yeah.
Can I swing by his office and climb up the, Batman outside the window to see if he's working late? Oh, what rank is he?
Low rank. So he doesn't have an office per se. But you be able to, climb up to his, what would be the equivalent of an apartment, right?
Cool. I'm gonna do that.
So you're gonna leave the party and go find him?
Yeah, I'll walk by. Murgatroyd and I definitely gave up on the song. If I spot him, I'll give him a nod and just leave.
Yeah, Murgatroyd then just goes this party's lame, and turns and just walks out.
Okay. I'll tell him what I discovered, and my plan is to go meet with Ruth Larry's and tell him that we intend on bringing down the Barocks and do the Batman, cover my face and say we know that you're trustworthy. We want to bring down the Barocks.
All right. The long and the short answer from him is that you got to give me evidence. I need hard proof that they're doing something really wrong. Right? Not something that just is wrong to humans. It's got to be something that all the other aristocratic elf families are going to look down on.
Ties to the drow. I can prove it.
Okay, if you can prove ties to the Drow, then that would do it.
And war crimes. No, no, I'm not gonna bring that up. Great. Yeah. You're on. I'll bring it directly to you.
Please do. Okay, that's where we're going to end tonight.
Awesome.